2023 meeting of the Southampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals. This meeting is being held live and also via video conferencing in accordance with the Town Board's enactment of Local Law Number 14 of 2022, adopted on May 24th, 2022. Our next meeting and those following will be held in person here at Town Hall and will also continue to allow for remote participation. So we ask you to continually check the town's website for updates and any new information. If you wish to view tonight's live meeting only, please do not join the Zoom meeting and instead go to the town's website. With that, I'd ask that you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For those of you who are here with us tonight in person, in case of an emergency evacuation, please exit through the rear doors of this room to one of the staircases across the hall and continue downstairs and out through the main entrance. Please do not attempt to use the elevators during an emergency evacuation. In case of a medical emergency, the automated external defibrillator and first aid kit are both located in the hallway on this floor opposite the elevator. Restrooms are located across the hall. We will be starting this meeting with the public hearings. We have applicants and members of the public here with us live and also standing by via Zoom webinar, which is being moderated by CTV. CTV will mute the speakers on Zoom until it is their time to give testimony before the board. Please be patient. If you find that you are having difficulties accessing the hearings, please visit the town clerk's meeting portal and click on the instructions link. Please silence your cell phones and refrain from speaking to one another in the boardroom as it interferes with the recording equipment. Tonight we have board member Helen Burgess, who will be participating remotely via Zoom. A reminder that applicants, agents, and members of the public speaking, other than attorneys, will be sworn in, will state their address for the record, and will offer their testimony as it relates to the application before the board. Before handing in any submissions to the board tonight, please make sure that the documents identify the ZBA application name and tax map number. The application name should also be written on your certified receipts. Unless otherwise stated at the end of each hearing, all of these applications will remain open for written comments for all purposes until a date to be announced after the hearing. Those comments can be addressed to the members of the board and sent via email, mail, and/or dropped off at Town Hall to the board secretary, Candace Cowell. We're actually not going to be approving the minutes of our last meeting tonight. We'll be doing that as well as the minutes for this meeting at our next meeting. So with that, I would move that we go on to adjournments.
Okay.
Second.
As far as adjournments are concerned, under new applications, item number 9, Thomas Kurdahi, 406 Hayground Road, Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-81-3-25. I'll move to adjourn that to our July 6th meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Ms. Curran. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, for the
Yes.
record, we do have the affidavits of posting and mailing on
Oh.
that application.
Okay, thank
We
you.
have jurisdiction, right? All right, item 11 on the agenda is 17 Bishop Lane, 17 Bishop Avenue in West Hampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-358-1-21. I'll move to adjourn that to our July 20th meeting. Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Curran.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 12 on the agenda, Joseph Alosio, 219 Ocean View Parkway in North Sea, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-64-1-46.3. I'll move to adjourn that to our July 20th meeting. Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly. Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Ms. Curran.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 13 on the agenda, which is 911 Flanders Road LLC, 911 Flanders Road, in Riverside, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-138-2-31 and 32. I'll move to adjourn that to our September 21st meeting.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Ms. Curran.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and just for those who are following this application, we're waiting on the secret process to be completed. That is the environmental review.
Okay, on the decision calendar, Gerard and Ellen Perino, I will move that this case and the following cases I speak of to a determination on July 6th. Robert and Gretchen Savage, Max New York Management, Dennis P. Schmidt, Barbara Rosenthal, Matthew Frank, Production Holdings LLC, and Lee Skolnick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
All right. I will move to reopen Lemony Family Irrevocable Trust to accept written submissions.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, reopen.
And then I'll move to close it for a determination later this evening.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That's all I got.
Okay.
All right, then we'll go to the beginning of your agenda. Minor variance review, SRZ Ventures LLC, 63 Chase Court in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-51-1-19.2. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residence District Dimensional Regulations for a principal front yard setback from 60 feet to 49.8 feet for a proposed front covered porch and a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board of Jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so there's no public hearing in connection with this application. So Keith, it is yours. Want to make a motion?
Yeah, as you have said, there is no public hearing on the minor variance review, so I will move to close this for a determination later this evening.
Second.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 2 on the agenda is Alexander Vyman, 6 Gracewood Court in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-260-4-39.3. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11, Residence District Dimensional Regulations for a principal front yard setback from the required 40 feet to 37 feet for a proposed covered front porch and any other relief necessary.
Board of Jurisdiction.
Okay, this also is a minor, so there's no public hearing. Helen, it is yours.
Okay, this case is a little unusual and specific to my very. It is going to need an adjournment. It's going to be put off until the 6th of July, with some written submissions, namely a survey that needs to be done, and there will be a decision on July 6th.
Second.
Okay, so that's closed except for written submissions. Decision on 7/6. Do anyone want to have a deadline on those written submissions? I think actually you mentioned the deadline, 6:30.
6:30.
Okay, very good. Ms. Burgess?
Aye.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Item 3 on the agenda, 204 Butter WB LLC, the Champion, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-85-1-7.1. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-95. Schedule of off-street parking space requirements for non-residential uses to allow 18 spaces where a minimum of 36 spaces is required for a physical fitness facility and warehouse with on-site parking and a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board of Jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good to be here. As always, Carl Benacasa for the applicant, 860 Montauk Highway, Water Mill. Before we get started, we received notes from the building department yesterday asking for updates to the survey. Those have been done, and the council. Specifically, it was requested that lot coverage be put on the survey, and it is, and it's conforming, and further that the distance to the side yard from specific sheds on the property that don't benefit from a permit were put on there. Now, those sheds are temporary and are being removed. I've spoken with them, so the sheds are not a concern. There was also a note with respect to whether those sheds needed pyramid relief. Pyramid does not apply in the LI 40, but again, the sheds are being removed, so.
Is that on the survey?
No, they will be removed, and we'll provide a revised survey. very
It'll
written
say
on
to
it.
be removed, okay.
Yes.
This is Mike's.
Okay, you can tell us about the application.
Sure. 204 Butter Lane. I have another packet of handouts.
Thank you.
Council, just-
Can I just give him back, please?
Let me have anyone to have.
You want him?
One for health,
204 Butter Lane is located just south of the intersection of Butter Lane and Tradesman's Path in Bridgehampton. It is in the LI 40 zoning district, but is only 36,526 square feet, so it's just slightly under minimum lot size. It's improved with a one-story, 5,697 square foot frame structure and an 1,800 square foot storage building, both structures benefiting from an updated CO issued in March of '21. And both have been in existence on the lot since prior to zoning. In 1972, it received a variance reducing the front yard setback to 25 feet. The applicant proposes to use the frame structure, the 5,697 square foot frame structure, as a fitness facility, and is currently in process with the planning board to obtain site plan approval. Last year, the planning board issued a pre-application report which identified the need for this variance related to on-site parking, specifically the need to reduce the off-street parking requirement from 36 spaces to 18 spaces. The warehouse requires one space for 1,000 square feet, given that it's 1,800 square feet, 2 spaces need to be devoted to that. And a fitness facility, the way parking is calculated under the code, it's 3 persons for every one space for every 3 persons of permitted occupancy. There are 102 permitted occupancy per the fire marshal, so that means that it's required to have 34 spaces plus 2 for the warehouse. That's 36 spaces, and again, we're asking relief to permit that down to 18. You can see I passed out a packet which would first have the survey on it that demonstrates what we discussed as far as lot coverage, the location of the buildings, and those 2 sheds to the east which are going to be removed. And the second page is the site plan, which has been presented to the planning board, and again, subject to the adopted pre-submission or pre-application report. Is Anthony here? I know he wanted to.
That's be right back.
Okay. Anthony Trezza is the planner that was on that, and he wanted to speak briefly on it. So generally, this board considers parking variance in line with the general standard of whether the benefit outweighs the detriment to the community and the 5-part test. However, the town code actually allows for an alternative consideration pursuant to section 330-167E2. So I will present both the standard application and the application in line with that section. So turning first to the 5-part test. Does this create an undesirable change in the neighborhood? Now, 330-92 of the code notes that the intent of off-street parking requirement is to minimize traffic congestion, air pollution, and the risks of accidents. Naturally, these uses would be tied to the specific use on the premises. The general standards for a fitness facility are, as I noted, 1 spot for every 3 people of permitted occupancy, but what's important is the specific type of use that this fitness facility pursues. This is not like many fitness facilities or gyms. It works quite differently. It's a much higher price point, approaching $1,000 a month at times. It's much less volume. It caters to small groups, more one-on-one training, low trainer to class member ratio in its classes. No guests are permitted. The class program is very small, less than 10 per class. And very few use the site outside of the class. It's a low-density model. There are no juice bars or showers. There's no locker room in sight. There's no lingering or congregating, so small groups of people come in and out. It was in the light of this model that the planning board, if you turn to the third page of the packet I presented, adopted this pre-submission report. And in the planning board's report, it reviewed a determination, a study conducted by VHB, which is a few pages into the packet behind this report. And it noted in the planning board in issuing the pre-submission report, found that the Equinox's business model significantly reduces the parking demand on the site and a cumulative trip generation, and further noted that the facility, under this general business scheme and general practices of Equinox, would not need more than 14 parking spaces. This is actually noted in the pre-application report. We are asking to reduce the requirement to 16 to be devoted to this, so actually 2 more than the
18,
planning.
wasn't it
18 is including the warehouse.
Oh, and the two.
So for the,
warehouse,
for
okay.
the gym use only, it will be 16.
Okay.
Now, the planning board, in making their determination and adopting their report, references a study by VHB, which I noted you also have, that found that the trip generation and parking demand never exceeded 14 people at a time. This study was conducted in August of 2021, both at a peak time in the season and an historically peak time in our population, just post-pandemic when a lot of people were living out here. And it's proven through internal numbers that that data is consistent year over year. Is there a feasible alternative? So in light of all of that, this does not pose any sort of undesirable change in the neighborhood. In fact, the on-site parking being provided, and you can see from the site plan that we have maxed out the parking on this lot in light of the existing structures. But that parking is sufficient to accommodate the needs of this use. And accordingly, it's not going to create spillover onto on-street parking, and there won't be an undesirable change in the neighborhood. Are there feasible alternatives? No, as I mentioned, this lot has been in this configuration since prior to zoning. So, are we able to, and we have, if you look at the site plan, we've used every square inch we can for parking. So there's not an alternative, there's not this isn't like a new structure where we could redesign parking. We have to work within the confines of what's there, and we've maxed out parking on that lot. Is it substantial? Well, for the reasons I've stated, regardless of the fact that we are asking for a reduction from 36 to 18, the fact is it's not substantial because the actual parking demand, in line with the studies by VHB, in line with the determinations of the planning board, are actually less than the relief being requested. So in light of that, it is not going to have a substantial impact, it's not going to have a substantive impact, and it's not a substantial request for relief. It is, it's not an adverse impact to the physical and environmental conditions of the neighborhood for the reasons I've stated before, and it's not self-created. Again, this site has been in its current configuration since prior to zoning, and it seems well prior to zoning. Did you want to say anything, Anthony?
I usually wait until you.
Okay, sure. So now if we look to the, looking to section 330-167E2, which is that analysis that I discussed, that's set forth in the code for parking relief. If you look to the last page of the packet I sent, that's going to help you in assessing this. So section 330-167E2 of the code articulates these specific standards for relief from section 330-95, that being the parking, on-site parking, off-street parking. It says that the board may waive in whole or in part the requirements of 330-95 for off-street parking upon finding that a normal application of such requirements is unfeasible because the lot is either too restricted an area, unusual dimensions, shape, or topographic character. As I mentioned, this lot has been in this configuration since prior to zoning. I've said it several times now, I should probably stop saying it. And we've maxed out the site with parking. So it is not feasible to add any more parking than we are proposing on this lot. And then second, it asks if there is other suitable or adequate lot can be reasonably put to such use within 500 feet of the property to which the parking spaces are accessible. Now, this is a strange standard because it relies on lots you don't own or don't have rights to accommodate your parking needs. This circle that you'll see on this page is a 500-foot radius from the site. If you look, many of the sites are undersized Many of them have oversized buildings, as this area was developed was well developed, well before zoning came into place. Parking is very restrictive on these lots, and we have approached representatives for the applicant have approached virtually every one of them, and none are in a position either with an ability or a willingness to accommodate parking, separate parking for, devoted parking for this site. Finally, I point the board to the fact that previous relief has been granted to applicants in similar situations. Specifically, in February of last year, variance D022010, this board granted relief, reducing parking requirement by 20 spots. Again, we're asking for a reduction of 18 here, on a parcel that was 39,278 square feet, so roughly the same size as this. Improved with a building that was 5,225 square feet, again, roughly the same size as the building currently before you. And it was for a laundromat use, which is more dense. Laundromat parking is determined by the machine. Here, it was determined that they needed 64 spots on the site. The board granted relief in that case based on a review of information as to actual demand for this specific use. Again, the same relief we're requesting and the same evidence we're requesting in furtherance of it. Also, in Bridgehampton, back in December of 2012, this board granted relief, variance number D013128. Relief was granted for roughly 50% relief of required off-street parking at the site currently that hosts Almond. In granting the relief, the board noted constraints of the lot size. Similar concerns are here. We have very constrained lot size, given the fact that it is undersized, one, and two, that it's built out substantially. And it was built out prior to zoning.
Okay, Anthony, definitely want to get your comments on this one.
I won't bore you with my philosophical thoughts on parking.
Oh, please do.
I won't. Look, when, you know, a project like this, it's always good to start off with the planning board, especially when you're dealing with parking. Because we got the analysis from a consultant, and so, because sometimes parking requirements could be excessive. The laundromat is a good example. And a use like this, which was presented, same case to the planning board about the nature of the use. My only question is, and maybe I'm deferring to Kathleen, is I don't remember if we said anything in the pre-app report. Did we identify a mechanism in which we would know that the use would be maintained as like an appointment, or however it's being described, as opposed to a Planet Fitness, which is going to have a constant. That I just want to make sure that this board is aware of that distinguish.
That was my concern.
Well, that's my,
Is the planning
absolutely.
board going to consider that as a condition of the site plan approval? Because I would imagine
So
that's
the
appropriate.
pre-submission or pre-application report, pre-submission report, specifically note it's based on a business model with limited membership, scheduled classes, and hourly check-ins that are monitored and ensured that occupancy levels are maintained at appropriate level. So we would naturally expect that it would be incumbent upon the applicant to keep its operations as it's proposed.
So what I can tell you is that the planning board will make as a condition of approval. Now, I don't know what that is going to be. Is it just going to be a condition of approval in the site plan, or an actual, restrictive covenant? We haven't gotten that far because we have to get the formal application, but the planning board will put a condition in there that with that language that limits the use as it's specified by the applicant.
And the applicant would have no, and the applicant would make no issue with that.
I would also suggest that if the board is so inclined to grant this variance, that it details those specifics within that granting. That is to say, the amount of people the applicant has indicated will be there. And if at any time that changes, you might ask that they come back.
And just for one other, because this isn't particularly unique in a way, because we approve site plans all the time with a use and a parking requirement. And then someone could go in there and put it in different use. Office to medical office, there's 2 different parking requirements. There's really no mechanism to, but we know as the planning board that when a use changes and the parking requirement changes, we usually note that in approval, that any change in the use would necessitate additional parking. And so it does happen. I mean, most of this, commercial site plans, we approve for a use, and those uses could change over time, and thus change the parking
How do you
requirement.
monitor, how do you monitor it?
Exactly.
Usually, often through the building department, when someone tries to go get a change of use,
No, but I see.
the very first thing they do is they send it to planning. You gotta get planning approval.
That's a change of use, but what happens if there isn't a change of use, it's still the same ownership, but the operations increase?
If I may,
Yeah.
I could see a situation in which it sounds to me like there is a weight room and that there will be the ability for members to make appointments in order to work out with a personal trainer in a weight room. Opening that weight room up to the general population of your membership could then increase the use of that use, and not to use the same word twice.
We have-
And then you wind up with people parking on Butter
Well,
Lane.
that's my whole monitoring.
That's the-
We have put in restrictions that, on other uses that said, that, maximum number of people that could be at the site at any given time cannot exceed 10 or 14 or whatever the case may be.
I think the question's enforcement, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, how would we?
Code enforcement would monitor, the neighbors monitor. If there's an abundance of on-street parking, it monitors it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how these, even permitted uses under the code are monitored.
Yeah. And the other concern, from my, point of view, I speak for myself, but I think Keith and maybe another couple of board members might say we have spent many, many, many hours listening to about the traffic problems in the hamlet of Bridgehampton, the serious traffic problems, that there is nowhere to park, that is kind of in a crisis point, particularly in the summer months. And so, of all the hamlets to deal with these kinds of parking issues, I'm especially sensitive to those issues here, because if they're even a little bit off, and they have we're a couple of spaces short, it's gonna create a problem. So, anyway, that's just my thought, and I'm not saying that I'm opposed to the application, but I just wanna express my, concern about this, because, I've listened to it at length in the past, not with this particular property, but with other properties in the hamlet.
The applicant is committed to maintaining this level of use, and whatever restrictions you feel are appropriate, I'm sure we would be fine with it.
What was the building used for before Equinox got in there?
It was originally barns, and,
Barns, but what were they?
what
Just
stuff?
barns?
Stuff.
What was it? Storage?
Storage. The warehouse building is still used for storage. At times it was used for storage. Just prior to my client, it was a private individual that owned it and used it for his own personal use. I think maybe storage of his personal items, and, but I can't say much before that. The COs note 2 barn structures.
When I went to see the property, there's a whole, fire access on the one side of the property. Are you choosing to confine that, or shorten it, or, whatever?
You're saying in line with the site
Yeah,
plan?
yeah. I went to see it, and the whole side from, I guess it's the south, is like fire
Well, there's a
access route.
Drainage easement there. On the south side?
Yeah, but it's like a wide area between the building and the property line,
Yeah.
there's nothing. But you're putting spots in there, is that going
No,
to
if you
limit?
look at the site plan, the spots are on the other side of that.
I'm looking at this,
Yeah,
here.
yeah. So there's spots in there.
Yeah, that's the-
Which are totally
that's-
compliant
Yeah, okay.
with fire marshal, with the
Okay,
fire
so
marshal
you-
and code. But if you look, there's a lot of space behind it.
Okay, okay, okay.
The,
Actually, it was on this side. I made an error. It's on this side.
Oh,
we
okay.
will, by the way, we make sure on all site plans, all fire lanes are
Okay.
maintained open. The fire marshal will review it, the fire district will also review it.
So this,
that kind of stuff.
this report was generated with data from the 2021 summer season. How long has Equinox been operating in this location?
Well, it was operating at that point, and then we were brought in for site, they were brought in for site plan, and now we're in the process.
So it's been since 2021?
Yes. yeah.
Okay.
And they've been using only 18 spaces since 21?
In an
There's
overflow
no-
lot.
There's no parking plan, we're going through site plans.
Yeah, no, I understand.
But in an overflow lot, in a lot across the street with valets, correct?
Well, there was a valet lot as part of this study.
Right.
And that, again, contemplated the actual parking used by the valets, which would not be used.
I noticed one of the other
Without this.
gyms has a sign up that says you can park in the Hayground School lot, except on weekends and stuff like that. So was that one of the,
It's not within
Places.
500 feet.
it's
no.
not within 500? Okay.
That's quite a walk, and again, we don't want people walking on the
No, I
street,
understand, it's a
yeah.
busy road, no, it's no question.
Again, the goal is to prevent accidents, so keeping
Yeah.
people off the streets
Yeah.
is a key component of it.
Yeah, so variances run with the land, but this variance is gonna be connected to this use, and what you're describing. So,
And that's,
Yeah.
you've certainly done that before.
yeah, yeah,
That's fine.
yeah, so if there's an issue, as Kathleen mentioned, you're gonna need to come back. We're hoping there won't be.
I love coming back, so.
You lied to me,
So
Carl.
coming back after the planning board, is that what you're saying?
No, he was saying if there was a,
No, there's an issue down the road, a year from now, they find that they're having, that it's not enough parking spaces, or they're having issues with it, that, at that point, we would have to address this further. As
All
to
right,
what
so
would
I'd
be
like to
needed.
see what the condition is that we put in the,
Well, yes, that's gonna be, but anyway, so that's gonna be
I
part
could
of
come up with
this.
something.
I would just note, just quickly, it'll also, whatever conditions you put in will be buttressed by whatever conditions the
Oh,
planning
yeah,
board puts in.
oh, I understand.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, okay,
I can put some, I'll work and put something together.
Yeah.
that'd be good.
I
okay,
can do that.
Yeah.
okay.
Michael.
Any other questions, comments?
When I first saw this, I was like, what are they thinking? Until I recognized that it was by appointment only and limited membership. And even at that, I think it's tight, but, I would only be in favor of it if there was a very clear, plan condition and, a legal instrument filed to ensure that the operation will remain as presented for
Absolutely.
Okay.
appointment only and limited. Okay, so, with that, we are going to continue this, or,
No,
because
I'm
we're
gonna ask
gonna
for
close the
anyone's
public
here to be
hearing?
heard, well, I'm gonna ask if anyone wants to be heard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yep, okay, so I wanna
You're
ask
not
if
on
there's
yet.
anyone here in the boardroom who would like to be heard in connection with this application. It's the application of 204 Butter WB LLC for property located at 204 Butter Lane in Bridgehampton. Is there anyone who is waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is, again, is for property located at 204 Butter Lane in Bridgehampton? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
Charlie?
No hands? Okay. If not, Mike is yours.
Okay, so there's no need to come back, right? We will look for the planning board, final language, and we'll close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions. It'll probably need to be longer than 6:30, right? Or,
I don't think so.
no?
No,
You're so speedy?
I'm very good at what I do.
Okay.
Oh.
We know that.
We know that.
I don't know if the audience laughing is such a good thing, there's a lot of consultants in here.
And modest, yeah.
So we will close the public hearing, leave it open for written submissions until June 30th, with an expected decision on July 6th.
Second.
Yeah.
Sorry, whatever.
Okay, we have a,
Superman.
Second.
we have a, okay. Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
I,
Mr. Macedonia.
I didn't
Mr. Tudhill.
realize that far.
Aye.
That's good.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We did have a request by Mr. Benincasa to take his second application out of order.
Why is that?
Did we vote on that?
Why is
We didn't
that?
vote on that.
You selfish.
Which number is that?
We don't have to grant the request, but it is a request.
I'm fine with that.
What number?
Number 10.
He promised me that it'll be brief.
Wait, it'll be very good.
394 Seven
That's
Palms
speed.
Town.
That's the one I promised you.
Okay.
That's mine. Okay, there, that's an easy one.
Just remember this for future reference.
Okay, item 10 on
I
the
will never
agenda.
forget.
Just remember.
Item 10 on the agenda. 394 Seven Ponds LLC, 394 Seven Ponds Town Road in Watermill, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-100-3-19.15. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-76D, 77D, excuse me. Placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts to allow a rear yard coverage of 23%, where a maximum of 20% is permitted for a proposed tennis court and any other relief necessary.
What is jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman?
Good evening.
Good evening once again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Carl Benacasa for the applicant, 860 Montauk Highway, Watermill, New York. Quickly, this is a request for relief with regard to rear yard lot coverage for a tennis court. I would note that the tennis court is a very reduced size. This board likes 55 by 110. This is 53 by 108. So it's even smaller than the reduced size. Just going quickly through the five-part test, it will not create an undesirable change in the neighborhood. Many lots in the neighborhood have tennis courts. The most affected lot is actually owned by my client. That would be the lot just to the west. Given the lot size and the proposed configuration, there's no way there's nowhere else to put the tennis court that would comply with the remainder of zoning regulations. And if you can look from the survey, the tennis court is literally right up against the house. I would note, importantly, not only is this a rather de minimis request, again, we're asking for 3% or roughly 600 square feet of rear yard lot coverage, but the town board, since we made this application, has increased permitted lot coverage, adopted a local law increasing permitted lot coverage to 50%, which means this will likely be an as-of-right application in a matter of weeks. Now, that's still pending, even though it was adopted. It's with the Department of State, and we're waiting for them to file it. So we are proceeding, and I have spoken with council, and the suggestion was to proceed with this variance, given the small request for relief and the circumstances of the application. But I think this board should consider it in the context of the fact that the town board has stated that it's in line with the comprehensive plan and the best interest of the community that 50% rear yard lot coverage be permitted. And I think it was adopted unanimously by the town board?
Yes, it was unanimous on May 23rd, local law number 20 of 2023.
So, that's all I'm going to say.
Okay.
Mr. Benacasa.
Any questions? No. Okay, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with this application? Which is the application of 3947 Ponds LLC for property located at 3947 Ponds Town Road in Watermill. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 3947 Ponds Town Road in Watermill? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands. Okay, if not, Bob, it's yours.
All right, move to close the meeting, hold it open for written submissions till June 30th with a decision on 7/6.
Second.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill, Ms. Burgess,
I
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Thanks so much. Have a good rest of your night.
That was.
That was nice.
All right, I'm gonna go to item 4 on the agenda, Jason D. Simmons, 4 Katina Road in Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-264-2-25.1. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed 2-story addition. 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations for a minimum side yard setback of 19.4 feet, where 20 feet is required. 2, for a proposed 1-story addition. 330-11 for front yard setback, excuse me, of 32 feet, where 40 feet is required. 3, 330-94, schedule of off-street parking space requirements for residential uses, for a total of 4 additional parking spaces in the required front yard, where a total of 2 spaces is allowed. 4, 330-97C, supplemental regulations for private garages and off-street parking areas in residence district to allow a maximum of 7 parking spaces on the property, where a maximum total of 5 is allowed, and any other relief necessary.
Board is jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Heather Wright for the applicant, Jason Simmons, on 30 Main Street, Southampton, New York. I'm here with Mr. Simmons tonight. There were some comments that we received from the building department the other day requiring changes to to the survey and site plan. So I do have those updated here. And I'd like to just hand out to the board public members. I put together a little packet just because I came into this application a little late. So there's been some changes in terms of the requested relief, and I wanted to put some documents in front of you just to make it clear what we are asking for. Okay, so I'll just wait for everybody to get it.
Where's the original?
I have it.
You have the
Helen's
original?
the-
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
as long as someone has it. Okay.
Here we go.
Wait,
Okay.
do we all get the same thing?
You all got the same thing.
I don't have those pictures.
Behind.
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay.
Okay, so there's,
Second, here,
There should be
this
two
goes.
pictures.
oh wait, I
and
see. Oh,
Okay, here.
Survey, site plan, and,
wait, what?
I guess I should use the stapler next
Hold
time, I'm
on.
sorry.
That's all right.
Oh, I see, they're they're
Out
in
of
different
order.
orders.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, I'll refer to them when we get started.
And these are the plans, right?
Yes, those are the plans, okay.
Because they weren't in the original.
Okay. So, what I'd like to do, the property is for, Katina Road in Hampton Bays. It's R20 zoning district. The area is 20,017 square feet. So what I'd like to do first is speak a little bit about, the variances that we are requesting and why we are requesting them, and then also, give you some background on the project, and then I will turn to addressing the five-part test. So, we are only seeking two variances this evening. We're seeking a request, a front yard setback of 32 feet when 40 feet is required to enclose an existing front porch. So if you look at the survey that I highlighted for you, what's in yellow is what we are proposing to enclose, and that currently is 32 feet from the front yard. And what we are looking to do as part of our renovation is extend the proposed covered porch east in the same footprint, 32 feet from the front yard, and that's what I have highlighted in green here. Okay, so what my client is doing is essentially a renovation on the house. We are taking the existing one-car garage and we're converting it to living space downstairs and expanding the master bedroom upstairs, and then adding another one-car garage on the property. So if you take a look at the photograph here, we have a building permit from January 2023. This shows you the existing front porch, which is going to be enclosed, and then here, sort of where this, I guess, truck is where the new front porch is going to be constructed if this variance is granted. So I just wanted to give you some perspective on what it's going to look like, and then I have the site plan, the elevation here, which will show you like sort of what the end product will look like once the addition is made and then the porch is added. And the second variance that we were requesting is really de minimis, but what happened here is when we applied for the building permit, the plans that were used for the permit showed a side yard setback on the easterly line of 25 feet, and then my client decided to increase the expansion a little bit. He was hoping to make the 20 feet, and he thought he was making the 20 feet, meeting the 20-foot setback, and then when the surveyor measured it, it came out to be 19.4. So that's why
That's the 19.4?
That's the 19.4.
Okay.
Okay? We are not seeking any parking relief here. I think the confusion was that when the original plans were submitted with this application, the architect got a little zealous in showing how you can fit 6 cars in this driveway. My client only has 2 cars, and is...
So you need to get 4 more.
So we are not, I just want to make it clear for the board, we're not requesting any sort of additional parking or parking variance. We have the driveway reconfigured on the survey now to go straight into the garage. What we really did want was to have a sort of bump out on the side so it's easy for turning around and maybe putting a basketball hoop for the kids. But the point being is that we're not looking for any sort of increase in the allowable parking. The bedroom count isn't changing. We are sticking, it's a 4-bedroom house and it will remain a 4-bedroom house. We're just simply increasing the living space within the property as part of the renovation. So now, I just want to turn to the 5-part test. So, there's not going to be any, undesirable change to the character of the neighborhood with the addition of moving the front porch essentially east. So if you, you know, the closest house is on 38 Gravel Hill Road, that's the next house over. Their house actually faces east, so their backyard would be the closest to where the porch would be constructed, and that's 180 feet to their property line, so it's not even gonna be close to them, and it's pretty shielded with trees. We did approach two of the neighbors and have letters in support, which I had submitted. I don't know if you saw them, but I submitted them with a file. At 5 and 6, Katina both have no objection to the proposed variance and construction. So, you know, certainly we think this is, the front porch is sort of a customary part of a home. The original house, when it was built in 1991, was built in its current configuration, and the house itself was at 40 feet from the front yard. So any construction, any front porch, any entryway is going to require a variance from this board. Now, the existing front porch that is there now was pursuant to a 2017 variance granted by the board. You know, we don't believe we have a feasible alternative because of the fact that the house itself is 40 feet from the front yard. And, you know, whether we put the renovation on the west side of the house or the east side of the house, we'd still be asking for the same relief, because to come closer to the road, we would need a variance. It's not gonna have any negative environmental impact, obviously. We're not adding bedrooms, we're just doing a simple renovation. And I think substantiality, I mean, again, that's, you know, whether it's mathematically substantial, it's mitigated by the fact that it's not gonna have a negative impact on the neighborhood, that we've got support from the neighbors, and we're simply just moving east what we already have.
Well, glad you took care of the building department comments and clarified about the parking. You know, it seems to me to be, in the scheme of things as revised from the original application, a pretty modest application. But, you know, we'll see if there's anybody here and any concerns. And we indicated, I guess, that the neighbors are in support.
Well, we have letters from two of the neighbors, and we haven't heard any neighbors that are not in support.
Okay. All right. But when you take out the parking, then we just had the setback relief 20 to 19.4, and I understand you gave your explanation as to how it happened. If we want to ask the applicant about it, we certainly can. We appreciate your being here. And then besides that, we have, you know, otherwise, you know, you're really pretty minimal relief.
Is the entire porch now gonna be enclosed?
The entire existing porch is going to be enclosed,
But
correct?
what about the new porch?
No,
The new
no.
porch, that's gonna be open?
Yeah, so if you look at, you can, I know it's maybe a little difficult to tell,
It
but
was
on
hard
this
for me to
easterly rendering,
Yeah.
this is the spindles for the,
Okay.
The porch is a common amenity.
No, I understand, I just was curious.
Yeah, so I mean, basically the 40 feet to 32 feet front yard setback is the primary relief. I mean, it's pretty much, it's most of it.
And you said there was a 2017 variance for the
yeah, so
porch-
the
for the
existing,
porch.
the
For
porch
the
as.
existing porch,
Correct.
Yes, it's in the application.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
fine with it.
Anybody here?
Okay, any other questions, members of the board? Is there anyone who would like to be heard this evening in connection with the application of Simmons? This is the property located at 4 Katina Road in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for a property located at 4 Katina Road in Hampton Bays? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands. Okay, if not, Helen, it's yours.
Okay, Mr. President, what is the date nowadays for written submissions?
6:30.
6:30 is written submissions, and then 7/6 is for decision, only because we have 3 weeks between meetings.
So we're doing 6:30?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So I have visited the property. I find that the request is rather minimal. I have no problem with this request, and we will close the public hearing. Leave it open for written submissions to June 30th with a decision on July 6th. Thank you, Meredith, for your very, very good presentation.
Okay, Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, thank you for being here.
I think this is a, so you guys know, this is a good application right here.
Thank you.
You too.
It's taken a while to get them to the
All right, item 5 on the agenda is 41 SS LLC, 41 School Street in Bridgehampton, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-86-2-42. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for one, a proposed one-story addition on the south side of the dwelling, 330-11, Residence District's Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a minimum required side yard setback of 13.9 feet, where 20 feet is required, and two, 330-83C yards, and 330-76D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts to legalize an outdoor barbecue and patio located within the minimum required side yard for the principal dwelling on a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Board has jurisdiction.
Evening, just swear in and state your name and address.
Kevin Springer, 61 Channing Cross, Hampton Bays, New York, 11946.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, then tell us about the application.
I can. We can start with the mudroom addition, which is a minor, a very small, it's approximately 130 square foot addition on the south side of the property, which is where the mudroom is right off the kitchen, with a little bit of a closet to store some. We have a very small house to begin with on a non-conforming lot with R20 setbacks. So in the one corner where we're asking for the 13.9, it actually stretches out to a little over 17 feet with the property. So, I mean, it's, in my opinion, it's a very small addition. And it makes it very feasible to get in and out of the kitchen. We're coming from the barbecue and from the side and rear yard, as we have a living room and media room on the other parts of the house, which is really not a potential spot for a mudroom per se. With the outdoor barbecue, if you look at the survey, the barbecue itself is only a small fraction of the barbecue that is actually in the required side yard. It is not the complete barbecue. Yes, it was built without a building permit. I know you love those. But after speaking to the gentleman who built it, he was not aware that they needed, a building permit for a barbecue. But I told him, moving forward, you better get your stuff together, because that's definitely a thing. It's still set back the 10 feet that it's allowed, but we do have a portion of it in the actual required side yard, which, as we know, in the last few months, has been a little bit of an issue, and I'll keep my thoughts to myself on that right now, but I don't think it's really a game changer. I think this whole application is minor to begin with. Again, it's a non-conforming lot, so we don't have a ton of room. I don't know if anybody has any questions. There's
Yeah, I have
plenty-
questions, members of my board. Do we want to have the person who put in this barbecue come in and explain to us how they went up without permits?
No.
When was it installed?
Public flogging? Public
Public
flogging?
flogging.
Yes, yes. If you insist, Keith.
When was it installed?
Only
I
if they
don't
bring-
either.
only if they bring some
Barbecue was
hamburgers.
a year
Yeah.
ago?
A year ago.
Yeah.
What's it constructed out of? Just a
It's
masonry?
just masonry, with some flagstone on the outside of it.
Yeah, I visited the property yesterday. It is what would you say? It's probably like 5 or 6 feet away from the house.
Yep, well, it has to be 5 feet off.
And it's
the house.
surrounded by flagstone. It's, the barbecue itself is embedded in a larger counter space.
Yes.
Which is also stone.
Yes.
Parts of
The
it.
entire is built of concrete.
And the property line on that side of the house has a very large fence, and
6 foot,
then a 6-foot fence, and then another 4 or 5
20.
feet of bamboo
Above the fence.
above
So
the
there's-
fence.
There's a lot of
It's
screening.
heavily screened, that
Can't
whole
see
side
it.
of the house.
Okay.
I will say, though, that if you look at the survey, you will notice that part of the patio is encroaching over the line of the neighbor. That is going to be taken care of.
Okay, because it has to be, 'cause we can't
Yes,
fix
and
that.
there is, so just
Yeah.
to be aware, there is and then I'm pretty sure there's somebody here who's gonna wanna speak, but there is when my client purchased this house, there was an agreement between the two that she signed noting that parts of her fence and shrubbery were over the line, and she signed it with the owner of 39, which is the one house just to the south.
She signed a lot line agreement?
Not a lot line, but just an agreement that there would be no, adverse, trying to.
No claim of adverse possession,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
Okay.
and so my client is aware that this is, the patio does need to be shortened up. So,
By 3.6 feet, is that right?
Yes.
Patio off 3.6, yeah.
Yep,
At least at that widest point.
yeah, it's kind of veers out again a little bit. House is on just a little bit of an angle.
Okay. Well, I can't understand how with something like a barbecue, that there might be some confusion about whether they need permits or not. So, with that.
5 years ago, you didn't need a
I
permit
know,
for a
I know.
barbecue.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. But on the other hand, want people to understand, building
As soon
without
as you
permits.
install it.
Well,
As soon
people
as
building
you
without permits,
build it
the
in.
risk is that it ends up
Right,
having
well,
to be removed.
that's how the building
Yeah.
department now looks at it, as a structure, because
Right.
it is attached to the actual
Mhm.
patio.
Right.
Per
Right.
se, and it's not going anywhere in a storm, so yes, it technically is a structure, but
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
something that for years was just never considered.
Yeah.
And again, for us, we literally have a 3x3 section of the actual part that's over, in the required side yard.
Mhm.
The rest of it's in the rear,
Yeah.
which, again, wouldn't have been an issue 8 months ago.
Yeah. In the scheme of things, it is a modest application. Yeah.
Significantly, yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, any other questions or comments, members of the board?
But is there gonna be a stipulation that the patio and other stuff will have to be resolved in order to?
It's already
proceed?
it's been brought up with the building department, so if this is approved, that has to be taken care of no matter what.
Can we add that as a condition
as a
of the
condition.
Yeah,
variance?
absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, all right,
Absolutely, yeah.
that's what I wanted to know.
Okay,
All right.
no problem.
No, my client is fully aware that that's what's gonna take.
Yeah, okay, very good. Okay, is there anyone here who's in the boardroom who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of 41SS LLC for a property located at 41 School Street in Bridgehampton? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 41 School Street in Bridgehampton? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand.
You said there was, okay.
What did you say?
He's bringing them in.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Unless you're an attorney, I just have to swear you in. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, I'm Ilana Carr, 39 School Street, Bridgehampton, New York, 11932.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, you can give us your comments.
As I said, I'm the owner of 39 School Street, which is the property to the south of 41 School Street. As the gentleman mentioned, my fence is about 2 feet 7 inches over on my property side that separates our two houses. Ms. Noddle has both the survey and a letter stating such that the fence is over. She has refused to sign the letter that acknowledges that the fence is on my side. I plan to move the fence back to the property line. And so I heard you suggest that the removal of the stone that's on my side is a contingency of the variance, as long as this issue is taken care of and the barbecue and the addition do not impact my property line, that is fine, but I do plan to move my fence back to the property line, and I do need that resolved before anything else happens.
Okay, well, this is gonna be a condition, in the variance that this issue be resolved. So basically, the applicant is gonna have to deal with this.
So I'm confused, is it your fence that's on their property or their fence on your property?
It's a shared fence and it's
Yeah.
on my property. It's like one
right.
thin fence that's on
Okay,
my.
so it infringes on your property?
Yes.
Okay, so what you want is a
To move it
recognition of
back to
that?
the
to move- So you
proper-
want who moves it back? Who's responsible for moving it back?
Well, the fence is already on her property.
But it's a shared fence, she says. So
Yes.
she wants to make sure that
It's on that
she's not losing that space between the
At
fence
2
and her
feet.
property line.
2.7
So-
feet.
So who's going to be responsible for moving the fence?
I suppose me. I assume Ms. Noddle won't share that burden, but
Who put the fence up?
I would expect it would be shared. It hasn't been,
Did you put the fence up, or did the applicant put the fence up?
the cost of repairing the fence that had been up previously.
Was it up previous to either of you owning the property?
Yes.
I believe, prior to me owning it, yes.
I do have a letter here from dated August 25th, 2015, between the owners of 39 Atlas LLC and the previous owner, the Flemings, stating, owner of the property 39 shares a boundary line with the property of 41 School Street. For your convenience, we are enclosing a copy of the survey of the property at 39, updated as of April 26, 2012. Please note that the stockade fence erected by my client near the common boundary line, again, this is 39, is located several feet inside my client's property line, and the hedges on the northerly side of the stockade fence are planted on my client's side of the boundary line. In order to prevent any future claim of adverse possession and to ensure that our client's property maintains the minimum required size of 1/2 acre, I'm requesting that you acknowledge the hedges on the north side of the stockade fence will be maintained by you for your benefit of my client, that will not make a claim of adverse possession to any of our client's property on the northerly side of the fence, and that you will notify any purchaser of your property that you have acknowledged these facts to our client, which
Right.
So this is just standard fence affidavit. That's-
Right, but
it
just for
doesn't-
just for everyone's edification, New York State changed the laws with regard to adverse possession. You have to have a good faith basis for claiming that you own the property that you're adversely possessing now. So we can clear this up, but there's not really a fear at this point that anyone's gonna take 2 feet from anybody else. So would you like us to make it a condition of the variance that this fence issue be resolved as well?
Yes, please.
Okay. Do you have any objection to the placement of the barbecue or the placement of the mudroom?
As long as it doesn't impact my ability to enjoy my full property, everything on my side, I don't have an objection.
Okay, great.
So the other part of this, I just want to clarify, is who's going to take responsibility for doing this and who's going to be paying for doing
Right.
this?
Right.
And the applicant is here asking for relief. At the end of the day, I would like, the applicant to either have an agreement with you as the neighbor or the applicant to take responsibility for this.
well, I mean, she wants the fence moved,
Okay.
and we do have a signed agreement that we acknowledge that the fence is there and some bushes and whatnot.
Okay.
No, Ms. Noddle never signed that agreement. The signature is from the previous owner.
But it follows the property, so.
You need to submit that to us.
Yes, I am. That's
Yeah,
why I-
And-
we need that.
Okay.
I think we need to take a look
I
at
think we need to
that.
get it cleared up now.
Yeah, we've got to clear it up
Clear it
now.
up now so it doesn't arise in the future.
I
Yeah,
agree.
Yeah, so basically, what I think the goal is here is to have the fence moved onto the property line, so it isn't going over the property line, period. And so there isn't,
Resolving it for future reference.
correct,
Yeah.
correct.
And if you could talk to the neighbor, you can get a meeting of the minds, maybe you do a
Well, I
shared
know that
cost.
they've tried to, I mean, I'm gonna be,
We have tried to speak, this, I didn't have a ton of warning that this was happening, and
well,
I wasn't able to,
Mhm.
weren't able to come to resolution. I asked for this to be postponed, but that was not enough.
Are you willing to share the cost?
Yes, of the
Okay.
fence, not
Of
the
the,
patio.
yeah, right,
Right.
the fence, not the patio.
We've already agreed to, that she knows
Right.
that's her patio, and she has to take care of that.
Yes.
That's not an
Yes,
issue.
she's-
Patio
right,
is,
right.
is done.
I would think move the fence and have a new survey, this way we can have it so we know it's correct.
Have it done before we issue a decision.
Yeah.
Have the fence moved,
Okay.
rather than dealing with a condition and
Right.
question mark as to whether it actually ends up getting done.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
all right, so that's what we're gonna do.
How much time would you need to do that?
Split in the cost, you guys.
She's gonna move the fence, I'm not, my client doesn't wanna touch the fence, cause it's not hers. So, you know,
Okay.
Okay.
So the fence will need to be moved, and then the survey will be, the surveyor will come back to verify that the fence has been moved to the property line. We get the revised survey, and then we render a
Okay.
decision.
So we're having her.
You want a
pay for
variance,
the
right?
fence?
Get it done,
They-
all right,
it's really-
please?
I suppose she's offering to pay for moving the fence.
As I understood it, we were splitting the cost of the fence.
Okay, is your client willing to agree to splitting the cost of moving the fence?
I believe she will. I will have to speak to her, but I don't foresee it being a problem.
Okay, well, I think it's only fair that the cost be split, and if it isn't split, let
Right.
us know and we'll have you come back.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yep.
Take it out of whatever you're charging for the, variance.
How much time does everyone need to do that?
Well, the fence is gonna be moved and then the surveyor has to
Well,
come
the
back.
fence has to,
So-
you know, we have.
I,
some-
right, and you're gonna have to
Yeah.
provide us with a written submission, and then we'll have a decision date. So I'm just wondering in
Yeah.
terms
It's
of
gonna take a
determining
while
what
to
the
get
written
the
submission's
fence
going to be.
people And the survey,
It's gonna
month.
take you a while.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's gonna take at least a month. I mean,
Okay.
we have, there's bamboo that needs to be cut down to move this fence, there's, you know, there's shrubbery.
That's why we're
you know,
asking.
That's why I was wondering how extensive the landscaping will be.
Well, we
What
don't
writ-
have really room on an agenda, well, actually, this is just for decisions.
What, written submission date should
Give
we
a date
be
in August.
given July?
Enjoy the barbecue also.
Yeah, we'll be done with the barbecue. by then.
It's gonna come when it comes, you know?
Okay,
But,
so when are we putting written submissions?
That's what I'm
A
asking.
month?
Hold-
A month?
Just a minute.
July 20th?
Yeah,
Yeah.
July 20th?
21st for written.
Uh,
So we would, you could do July 21st for written submissions, and decision August 3rd.
August 3rd.
July
Is that okay?
Okay, so, give me 1 second. You said July 21st,
Yes.
and then August for the American.
August 3rd. August 3rd is the next
Third or first?
decision on August 3rd.
8-3 is the determination.
8-3.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
so that's a motion.
Second.
Uh,
Wait, John's.
I didn't even give the motion. Hold on, everybody. Everybody's
Go
moving too
ahead,
fast.
Do the motion.
Okay, so I move to close the public hearing on this application, provide for written submissions by July 21st with a written decision by August 3rd.
Second.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Ms. Kern,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
I,
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and you both know how to get in touch with each other for all of this? Okay.
Okay,
very good.
great. Thank you
Okay,
very
All right,
much.
thank you so much.
All right.
Have a good rest of your night.
Thank you.
Okay, item 6 on the agenda is Virginia Daly and James Daly. 8 Pine Tree Street, Hampton Bays, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-189-1-31. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed 2-story house on a non-conforming lot. 330-84D Pyramid Law for an encroachment of 19,182 cubic feet. West side, 11,594 cubic feet, and east side, 7,588 cubic feet. 2, 330-115C continuance for front yard setback from the existing 17.4 feet to 10.8 feet, and a side yard setback from the existing 3.4 feet to 3.1 feet, and 330-11 Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations for a total lot coverage of the allowable 20% to 21.6%. In addition, applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-77F, placement of accessory building structures and uses in residence districts as it relates to 330-11 for a deck 4.6 feet from the east lot line where 10 feet is required, and any other relief necessary.
Court has jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Just have to swear you in unless you're an attorney. If you can state your name and address for the record, please.
James Daly, 235 Rushmore Avenue, Call Place, New York.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, you can tell us about the application.
I'm going to try to rebuild the house that we have, and we're going to keep the foundation, and that's why we need the variance for the west side. It's just skewed a little bit on the property. And as far as the pyramid, it's a very narrow piece of property. And,
Sorry, everybody.
so that's where
Dance break.
So sorry about that.
pyramid, putting in for the pyramid law.
Okay, and this is a pyramid amount of relief that we don't grant.
Excuse me?
This is an amount of pyramid relief that we don't grant, Almost 20,000 cubic feet of pyramid relief?
Well, it's a single-family house.
It's a shame, it's a
Now it's
shame.
on
And
a
that's
two-story
how it
house.
goes. You're gonna hear from the rest of our board. There is no support for this amount of cubic feet of pyramid relief.
So I can't build my house.
No, you can have a one-story house.
Or you could have a
I
house that
agree.
doesn't have 19,000
I don't
square
think we've ever
cubic
granted
feet.
that.
Oh, no.
Is this
Wait,
house lifted?
Excuse me?
Is this house lifted? Is there any FEMA requirement to lift this house?
And I don't,
Is there any FEMA requirement
Is it in a
to
flood
lift
zone
this
where you have to
house?
raise the house?
Is it in a flood
Makes-
zone?
That makes it even worse.
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That was my biggest question.
Right.
the property's only 40 feet and the house is 25.
That's how it goes.
As
You might-
it sits now.
That's how it goes,
I
so.
beware.
How tall are the,
yeah.
how high are each of the floors?
Yeah, I don't even think we need to go there. I think at this point, this amount of pyramid relief that's practically on the practically right on the property line, there is no fixing this. There is, the only thing you can do is to rebuild with a one-story house. We can go back, floors, we can talk about it. No, it's not gonna go, not anywhere near where it's gonna be. So I'm sorry to tell you this, but I don't believe that there's any support whatsoever for what's being proposed. If you want to go back and, and have us consider something else, feel free. But if it's a number, even remotely near 20, the number that you have, I don't believe there'll be any support for it then either.
Even though this house had, when it was first put up, it had a separate relief for the, back then, in 1957 had a relief.
We don't grant these numbers of cubic feet of pyramid relief, this board. I gotta tell you, we give applicants a hard time when they ask for 6,000 or 7,000 cubic feet of pyramid relief. You're asking for almost 20,000 cubic feet of
I
pyramid
couldn't
relief.
even put up a single-story house now without, and coming
It
in
may
with-
be that if you go to a single-story house, you might need, 2,000 or 3,000 cubic feet of pyramid relief. Maybe that's
The
the
house, the way it
circumstance.
sits now, doesn't fit in the pyramid law.
Okay,
Right,
well,
it
what I'm
has-
telling you, a small amount of pyramid
That's
relief
current already.
is something that we would consider, not these numbers.
So you have a right to build, right? You have a non-conforming lot, pre-existing non-conforming lot in an R15 zone. So you have a right to build something. It just can't be, the board is telling you it can't be what
big.
you're asking for. You do have a property right in your parcel. They're not suggesting that you can't build anything there, but they are suggesting that your plans do need to be revised.
Mr. Daly,
Yes.
perhaps you should seek legal advice. I noticed that you don't have anybody representing you. If you had had somebody representing you to begin with, that person would have explained to you the workings of the board. And then this wouldn't be coming as such a surprise to you. You would understand better what you can do and what you can't reasonably do and not do. And I would suggest that you do something like that before you, build further, thinking of a future construction.
So I would suggest that we'll see if there's anybody here, but I would suggest that we adjourn this for you to figure out what you want to do. But
Exactly.
But how would I know if I went to build a single-family house, if I'll be allowed to do it then? This has taken 5 years to get to this point, and I just get turned down cold. It's cost me a ton of money just to redo permits and stuff.
Ms. Burgess is trying to help you by telling you that you should speak with the zoning and land use attorney about this application and get advice, get guidance from the attorney, get guidance from land use professionals about what you can and can't do, because this is not.
It's
Yeah.
clearly a very narrow lot, it's got a lot of constraints on it, and it's gonna be a challenge, but, maybe you can come up with something that will at least satisfy some of your,
I
requirements.
mean, 90% of the houses in this development all have variances to build because they're such oddball
Well,
pieces
they
of
are,
property.
but what, the chairman is saying is that 19,000 is just not in our, it's just not something that we would approve, so. But I think what Kathleen says is true. You've got rights to build, see if you can come up with something that is more reasonable, that we can consider.
And in the meantime, we have a full agenda for our July meeting, so the first availability would be one of the meetings in August.
I have to go start all over from ground zero.
Then you tell us
You
when
know
you'd
what I'm
like to
saying?
come
This
back.
is not gonna happen. It's taken me 5 years to get to this point. And with every problem that I've had between communications and everything else, and it's just all a waste of money. So,
Well, maybe
nobody
if you
told
look-
me in the beginning, it was, the building department looked at it, no one said anything then.
Yep.
When they know, have
I
an
think it's
idea.
unfortunate that they didn't have a lawyer involved. But in any case, that was what happened, and we are here now. Whatever amount of time you think you need, you just tell us, okay? We'll adjourn it to whenever you'd like, but it's gonna have to be basically a new application. Well, it won't be a new application, it'll be a
I have all
revised
the plans,
application.
I have everything brand new, this is
Yeah.
just a waste of money. But
Well, the architect should know this also.
I just,
Anybody who deals with our board would have told you in 5 seconds
It's not
that
gonna
that this would be a problem. 5 seconds. So,
it
anyway,
a
and
module?
that's all I can tell you. So, at this point, we have August, we have September, we have
No,
October.
no, I-
But we have to pick a date. We just have to pick a date, and then if you're not ready by that date, just let Candace know, and we'll put it over to another date.
2 years from now, I guess, I don't know.
Okay, all right, so let's pick a date.
September.
September date. What dates do we have in September?
It is the first time in September.
You have the 7th, you have the 21st.
21st.
21st?
Yeah, I would do it.
Okay.
Keep it
21st.
short.
And-
Okay,
Is it really?
okay. But before we do anything else, I just want to ask, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Daley? This is for property located at 80 Pine Tree Place in Hampton Bays. Is there anyone to be heard, who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 8 Pine Tree Place in Hampton Bays? If you are waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay. If
Okay,
not,
I'll move to
keep-
hold this over till September 21st meeting.
Second,
Mr. Tudhill,
Yes.
Ms. Kirk,
aye.
Mr. Leonard,
Aye.
Mr. Daly,
Aye.
Ms. Burgess,
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
Hate to see another Daley in pain, but
This attorney's out here, maybe one of these guys would like to help you out. Mr. Bennett,
Pro bono.
Mr. McCauley, Mr. Gilmorton?
Oh, yeah.
he would have known.
That was rough.
I'm just trying to make you guys some money, that's all. All right, number 7 on the agenda is Cecilia M. Hamlin, 121 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-155-1-24. Applicant requests relief from Town Code 330-11. Residence District Table of Dimensional Regulations to legalize a 3-story dwelling where a maximum of 2 stories is permitted and a non-conforming lot and any other relief necessary.
Boarders jurisdiction, Mr. Chairman.
Oh my God, there you go. Killing jurisdiction.
Adam?
Mr. Grossman.
Yeah, but I feel.
He's passing out the handouts.
Hello.
Somebody should hold
I love that we get all this shit every day up in here. I hate this. Like, who's gonna read this right now?
Thank you so much.
And either way.
I know, that's what I'm
That's how it
saying.
goes.
So there's no point in reading
That's
it.
why we said you get paid by the pound now.
I was trying to make it.
Look at my notes.
Mr.
You
Grossman.
would never.
Yes. Original?
Good evening. Should I proceed?
Yes, please.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is John Bennett. Bennett Weed, 212 Wimble Lane, Southampton. We're here for a request at 121 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe to permit the maintenance of an existing 3rd story within a single-family home located at that address. It's been there since at least 1997, when my client purchased the property. This is not a request to remedy work completed by my client or a contractor on behalf of my client. All of the work that we're seeking to legalize was completed prior to our client's purchase of the property, which was almost 30 years ago. So it's been there for 30 years without any seeming harm to the community. The property is located in an X zone, which makes it a little bit easier in terms of this sort of stuff, in terms of blessing stuff that should have been blessed before, but we're in an X zone, so we don't have to worry about that 50% limitation on FEMA. Ms. Hanlon purchased the home in 1997, and at the time, her lawyer from Garden City was, I guess I hate to be critical of other professionals, but it's 30 years ago, so I'll go ahead. There was a certificate of compliance for the residents that reads, move existing house to new location, 8-foot PC crawl, and add living area and deck. Not the most specific CO, doesn't talk about how many stories it is, doesn't talk about 1 or 2 or 2.5. Maybe somebody more astute and more diligent would have made further inquiry, but when Ms. Hanlon purchased the home, it was, the 3 stories were there, and that was the CO. Move existing, certificate of compliance, move existing house to new location, 8-foot PC crawl and add living area above deck. I think it was one of these houses that was built down there, and they put it on a new foundation, lifted it up. Now, this is a tale of, I'd like to say, probably, it's one of those res ipsa loca things. This is the only thing that could have happened. And the building department was very helpful in locating this letter. In it's Mr. Sigmund's letter, Arthur Sigmund's letter, who you remember was from the building department. It's Exhibit A of the recent handout. And in January of 1983, when the house was nearing completion, Mr. Sigmund did a inspection, and there was a 3rd story there. So he wrote a letter. The 3rd story must be gutted, stairs and landing removed so as to coincide with the plans submitted and approved for the permit. And he gave some other directions as to what should happen. That was in 1983. And then in 1984, a CO was issued, I'll make sure the date, the certificate of compliance in 1984, which again stated, it says, I just had to keep on losing, I read it a couple times to you. Move existing house to new location, 8-foot PC crawl and add living area and deck. Sometime after the then owner received the letter from Mr. Sigmund and took out the 3rd floor, and then received a certificate of occupancy for what was then a 2-story residence, because he, at that period in time, the prior owner was a good boy and did what Mr. Sigmund told him to do and took out the 3rd floor. He put it back.
Oh.
The same owner?
Same guy.
Took it down, and then
Took it down,
they
put
went
it
away,
back.
and he put it back.
Put it back.
Surprise.
Got the CO, put it back. I mean.
That never happens.
That never happens.
Yeah.
But he put it back. So then, my client purchased the property, has a Garden City lawyer, looks at this CO, says, move the house, make it, it says, what is this? I keep on, it's
8 feet.
What does it say? It says, I keep on, move existing house to new location and add living area and deck. So that you don't think that it was my client that did this stuff. I have some sort of interesting stuff here for you. Exhibit B, in November of the year just before my client bought the house, there's a letter from her mom, which is nicely signed off love, okay, who went to tour the house. And she says the 3rd floor consists of 3 small medium bedrooms which have slanted attic type ceilings. One would need something to maximize the sleeping space. There is a full bath on this floor also, only one of the bedrooms has a water view. So Ms. Hanlon's mother was out helping her scout for a new home. She also took a VHS tape of the tour of the home, but I was unable to find the VHS tape or a VCR to play it on, so.
More importantly,
More
yeah.
importantly. But in any event, there's a letter from my client's mom, saying that there is a third story there. Then there's even probably more helpful is the appraisal report that was obtained back in '97, and you can read through it, but it talks about it as a 3-story house. So the prior owner lifts the house, moves the location, gets a building permit to do all this work. Art Sigmund comes down, says, shame on you, you put a 3rd floor there. He said, mea culpa, I'm sorry, takes it out, gets a CO, and then puts it back. My client, I guess, can be, I don't know, it's hard to say. We tend to fast forward the standards of today, or we tend to go back to the standards of today sometimes. Would a Garden City lawyer have looked at this and looked at the CO and said, oh, it looks good to me, it's got a CO, it's fairly recent, doesn't say, the CO doesn't say 1, 2 or 3 stories, it's probably good enough for me. That's what happened. Probably certainly a lawyer that is a transactional lawyer, but also does land use stuff, would have dug a little deeper. But that's not what happened. So my client, through no fault of her own, you could say technically legal fault, you're charged with an awareness of all the laws that have obtained to a piece of property, but a fairly innocent person here, always thought she had a 3-story house, then goes to the conservation
Folks, you can
board.
please silence your cell phones. We have had 2 so far go off.
Then goes to the conservation board to add to the deck. The building department comes down and says, you've got a 3-story house here. So that's the story there. So we have the appraisal, we have the letter, we have clearly proof that the building department went down there and told the prior owner to take out the 3rd story, did that, got the CO, certificate of compliance, and then put it back in. Do I know that to an absolute certainty? But it is sort of what Res ipsa loquitur to think, how the heck else did it happen? Because when she purchased it, it was there. The appraisal shows a letter from her mom.
Does her attorney at the time have liability insurance?
Well, I believe the malpractice statute of limitations is 3 years.
Okay.
Probably wouldn't have done anything.
Just inquiring.
No, I know. So, and again, well, it's a decent size, it's a decent ask, you're supposed to be 2 stories, or certain municipalities, they say you can have a 2.5-story house, but this is a 3-story house, so the idea.
And it's a fully operational 3 stories.
Fully operational.
There's no area like, downstairs, 1st floor, not.
No,
it's right straight up.
it's not a mezzanine,
Yep,
it's
yep.
just
Right
a,
straight
exactly,
up. Okay.
good question, it's not a mezzanine.
Yeah,
So Steve Lemansky submitted some plans that would take, we're adding a very shallow dormer just to get to the headroom requirements, it doesn't take much of those plans. And also took out, they're very small bedrooms, so essentially dropped the count, took one of them away and made it a small office or study out of one. So we're going from 3, albeit not kosher bedrooms, to 2, and asking for relief to maintain them. I submitted a bunch of cases, which I won't bore you with, but I'll just, matters Cerami, Bunton, Renwick, Siegel, and Betts, in which the board allowed these transitions to a 3rd story. Gare Betts's case permitted the legalization of an attic to a 3rd floor, which is pretty much the similar case. This was distinguishable because Gare himself came in and said, yeah, I did it. But, net, given the character of the neighborhood, given the fact that he was willing to put a fire suppression system in it, which clearly
Required anyway.
So I'm not gonna get a variance from the state code on that one,
No,
so
no.
throw the condition in, but I would have to comply with that anyway. Marjorie sent us a letter at first saying she was concerned about the parking. But then Steve Lemansky provided a revised plan confirming that the existing driveway accommodates 3 spaces, and in here, tonight's submissions, I have an email from March confirming that the plan now shows compliant parking. Don't think there's any cause of any undesirable change in the neighborhood. I mean, there's a sort of a bootstrap argument, but it's been there for 30 years. Doesn't seem to
Yeah,
have
no,
any
and
damage.
in these kinds of applications, we hear the argument, well, won't impact the neighbors. On the other hand, you know, it's you know, we have had applications where these issues have come up where we've not agreed to 3 stories, or we've asked people, more recently, we've asked people to, you know, have a covenant or a condition that one of the floors not be used for habitable living space, but that's not what this is.
No, I guess, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and this is, at least to an extent, you know, well,
It's an innocent party here, I think.
well,
I
there's an
mean,
innocent party in your client, the prior owner was not an innocent party. And so, you know, I can understand the fact that the applicant bought what they thought was 3 stories and legal 3 stories, and it isn't. I have, you know, I can understand that. On the other hand, we don't wanna be,
You don't wanna
making
rubber
it too,
stamp
making
these
it too
things.
easy
Yeah,
for,
exactly. I agree.
for people, well, to support people who, that behave in the way that the prior owner did.
Let me ask you something. And again, I didn't want to be presumptuous. I thought this was a fairly compelling case. But if you'd like some economic evidence, you know, cost of demo
Yeah.
and maybe some
Yes.
Sure.
broker's letters.
That's my
of
note,
value,
yes.
of
Yeah.
value differential between the number of bedrooms and everything.
Yeah.
If that
That-
would
that's
make you
helpful.
more comfortable, let me
Well,
get
that's
that
helpful.
for you. Let me
Yeah,
get that for
yeah.
you.
I'm not exactly sure what other board members are on this are on this application, but.
I actually went to the
Yeah.
property. It fits in with the neighborhood, but I didn't see any other 3-story buildings in the
I
area.
have no idea if there
None,
are.
none.
My
I
guess-
looked,
my
I went
guess
up and
that there
down the
are.
road,
Yeah,
there was
yeah.
none. But my problem is that if we were to grant this, you know, these variances go with the land. I
Sure.
mean, so does that mean if somebody comes in, takes down this house, they've got a variance for a 3-story?
Well, what you could do,
What?
if I
That's
may,
what I wanna know.
What you could do, you could say that the variance is good as long as this house stands.
Right, and
I
no
think that would not
renovations
be- I
to,
don't think that would be violative of the, what's the granddaddy case on conditions? Do-
well, one of these
Or
other
I'm
illustrious.
offering it anyway,
Well,
yeah.
well, but that's,
yeah.
but I,
On
you
a
know.
redevelopment of the property.
Yeah, I mean, it
would have
doesn't
to be a
stand out
conformity, yeah.
so
Right.
noticeably. I mean,
That's
it's a
good.
modest
I never thought about
house,
that.
but I think we've gotta like put a condition on
Sure.
it. This only goes to that house and it can't be expanded and, you know, beyond what, you know, modest things that you are recommending in this case, but,
Well, it's tough. I
Well,
could
the
agree with-
expansion would be, if they, we'd have to consider that if there were an application.
Well, you
and-
gotta be
and-
careful,
and-
because, and I'm just gonna lay it out there for you.
Yeah.
I think the condition, yes, the variance would run with the land, but on the other hand, if somebody's gonna go in and fully redevelop this property, they should conform to the limitations on stories. I
Right.
have no problem with a
right,
condition like that.
but what about the existing? And, you know,
Okay, now-
you know, if you wanted to expand the existing
Okay,
house.
good point. There's a case, it's in the village of Southampton. I litigated it successfully. What happened was the zoning board of appeals, I'll get you the case name. I used to.
But would you
my
just
memory's
consider
bad.
it? I mean,
Well, here's the
let's-
problem. It's an illegal condition.
Just what does the case hold?
Excuse me?
Don't worry about what case it is, what it is a hold.
What it says is you cannot condition the grant of a variance on prohibiting someone from expanding or doing additional conforming work.
Conforming.
Conforming, maybe that's the hook. I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, if you're gonna,
Well, if the.
So if they had to come back to this board, then.
Then-
Well,
That's
that's
right.
different, that's different.
okay,
That wouldn't be
That's
conforming.
but that's what I.
That wouldn't be conforming then, yeah.
Right,
no,
all
no,
right,
no,
so
no.
conforming.
Yeah.
But I,
have no
but I,
problem with that. Right, so you can say
right, but I
that
would
there's.
still say that it runs with the house.
Sandy International versus
Oh,
Corman.
God.
But then would it be conforming as to the new owner?
No,
You had a
no, you can't,
three-story
you
and now
can't
you've-
make it, you can't make it, that's a clearly improper condition, you can't make it subject to the new owner. It has to run with the land, But I think a condition that says if somebody wants to redevelop this property, they ain't getting 3 stories is more than fair, and it would be sort of.
Is it
It
legal?
would be, it would be foolish for me not to agree to that condition. What I'm saying is, I don't think I think Sandy International.
Is that a
versus
legal
Torrance,
condition?
If I offer it.
Illegal or illegal?
Is it a legal
Yeah.
condition, or is
And-
it
and
an
he's
illegal
acquiescing to
condition?
Yeah, I'm acquiescing
And
to
he's
it.
acquiescing to it.
I'm
I mean,
acquiescing to it.
Okay.
At the end of the day.
That's right.
But when we're, but
Yes,
we're.
it is, but he's agreeing to it. as well.
Yeah,
But
but,
what I don't think I can acquiesce to is a condition that would say, if somebody wants to go and do an expansion that would otherwise be allowed under the code as a matter of right, without any variance relief.
Yeah.
I don't think you can say they can't do that.
Well,
Yeah.
what if it was just, they wanted to expand, but they wanted to expand the 3rd story?
Oh, I'd say no expansion to the 3rd floor, that's
All
fine,
right,
yeah, I have
that's,
no
all
problem
right,
with
so
that.
I think we can
Yeah.
put some conditions
Sure.
in that limit what the options
Oh,
are.
no,
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, I have no problem with the other stuff, but
No,
the
no.
3rd story and
Yeah.
then the,
3rd story not to be further expanded.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. And if anyone redevelops the property, raising this house,
right.
then they're gonna, then the variance goes, for the 3rd story
Right.
goes away.
Right.
I
And-
couldn't,
and-
I couldn't ask for anything.
right, and this application, or the decision, assuming we grant the relief, we'll be talking about the facts and circumstances of what occurred. That is, that we have a purchaser who relied upon the fact that he or she or they thought that it was a legal 3rd story when it wasn't, as opposed to someone who just decides to build a new house
Yeah,
and
no,
decides
right.
to do three stories and comes in before us and says, oh, we want a 3-story house because we want a 3-story house. It's unique to these
No.
folks.
That's not very sympathetic, unless it's a client.
But you're gonna also submit the demolition and all the other stuff
I'm
to
gonna
the
do,
file.
let me get you some.
Can we put in there that you're not
$10
gonna represent the new owner?
Excuse me?
All right, that's a
I'll
good,
put in get some dollars and
Yeah.
cents. I think that should be better for the record. I just.
And by the way,
sure.
we've done this to an extent before, so some of the
Yeah, there's
cases
a bunch
that
of
John
cases.
cited were other circumstances where there was a 3rd story going up without permits, or
They're all-
or partial, or complete.
They're all without permits.
Right, right.
All the cases that I put.
Let it be known that, there's no height relief requested or.
No, there's
that's
no
all-
height
Right,
relief.
right,
right.
right.
That's also should be noted in
Yeah.
the decision.
And it's in an X zone, which helps
Yeah.
because there's no
Yeah.
50%
And it's a modest
Hey,
limitation.
let's move on here.
Yeah,
Let's move
okay.
on.
So I'll get you some, if you could adjourn it for me, and I'll get you some dollars and cents proof, whatever
Okay.
date you would like,
Um,
whatever date's easiest.
I mean, we can do a written subs, you can come back.
We
It's up to
talked
you,
about
John.
fire suppressive.
I think written subs is fine with me.
Okay, give me a little bit of time, because I'm gonna have to go get some
Yep.
people to do this.
Sure,
but that-
no
that's okay.
problem. Before I do that, I just want to ask any other questions from members of the board. Anthony, you have any questions,
No.
comments?
I just wanted, he mentioned the fire protection requirements, which
Yeah.
should come out of the building department
You,
review.
Right,
you can
right.
put it in as a condition, just
There
as
you
a,
go, John.
to remind people, I'm gonna have to do it anyway.
You're gonna have to do it anyway.
Because the state
Yeah.
building code, the state board
Yeah.
of reviews ain't gonna give me a relief. for
Okay,
that.
Oh,
Mr.
yeah.
Crossman,
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
move on.
Okay, all right. Is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with the application of Hanlon? This is the property located at 121 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe. Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again is for property located at 121 Cold Spring Point Road in Tuckahoe? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No hands, okay. If not, John, how much time you need?
What's a good date for you, at least a month from now?
August.
August, that's fine.
Well, I mean, but I mean, do you want to come back, or do you,
No,
or
we
written
do written
subs?
submissions if
Oh,
it's
all
okay,
right.
unless you want me to come back. You tell me.
Nothing.
I can do
It's,
written submissions.
he's just giving information on the, the financial.
The
All right.
economic
And then we're
evidence,
gonna
yeah.
be coming up with the
No need.
conditions.
Yes.
Correct,
Yes, yes.
correct.
Yeah.
Okay,
So-
would 7/21 be enough time?
No.
What's that, July 20th?
That is for written subs.
It should be, and if not, I'll ask you for more, if that's okay?
Okay, that's fine.
That's okay.
All right, so
7/21.
for written subs,
And then August sometime.
August,
August 3rd.
August 3rd for decision. Okay, all right, so I'll move that we close this application, application of Hanlon. The deadline for written subs is end of business on July 21st, and the decision will be ready on our August 3rd meeting.
Thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye.
All right. Item 8 on the agenda is 74 Shinnecock Hills Road LLC, 74 Shinnecock Road in Shinnecock Hills, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-177-3-61. Applicant requests relief from the following provisions of the town code for a proposed tennis court. 330-11 residential districts table of dimensional regulations for distance from street setback, front yard, from the required 90 feet to 60 feet, and 330-76D placement of accessory buildings and structures and uses in all districts, and 330-83C yards to allow the tennis court to be located within the required front yard for the principal building, and any other relief necessary.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recusing myself from this application.
Okay.
The board does have jurisdiction.
For the applicant, David Gilmartin Jr., Greenberg Road, Montauk Highway, Southampton. I have the principal of my client here, and he's quite talkative, so you might want to swear him in.
Okay, if you're gonna state your name and address for the record, please.
Anthony Corco, 22 Gianna Court, Southampton.
And do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Spell your last name for me?
P-O-R-C-O.
Okay.
You're welcome.
So as the legal advertisement states, we're looking for a tennis court in what is a front yard. The reasoning behind this, I think is pretty apparent when you look at the survey. It's a pie-shaped lot with Shinnecock Road runs completely in front of it. The request, and I think it's probably good to understand the background. There was a smaller, very modest house on this that was taken off, which is reflected on the aerial that I showed you. It's right here, and it is 19 feet from the property line, and the house next door is also very close. So part of the redevelopment of this property was moving the two-story house over to center it on the lot. It gains some space from the only neighbor that's really there. The benefit to the applicant, Mr. Porco, is that he's able to separate his tennis court from the house, so it does provide separation. It also allows us to put it in a north-south orientation instead of the east-west, which creates a playing disadvantage when
Yeah,
it's...
yeah, the sun gets in your eyes.
Sorry?
Sun
Yeah,
gets in your eyes, yeah, I know, we know all
Playing
that.
disadvantage, right?
Oh, that's what it's called.
Heard 100 times.
For those of us who don't play tennis.
Right. So jumping to so that's the benefit. There's no detriment. I think there's a benefit to the neighbor to our east, where we've separated the house, that the court's on this side of the property away from him. Shinnecock Hills Road right here is an unopened paper road, so it's highly vegetated. And then our other neighbor is Long Island Railroad. So there is no negative impact to anyone.
Railroad will complain.
Sorry?
Railroad probably not gonna complain.
Well, I hope not. The variance is, I'm sorry, Mr. Tuttle? Okay. The variance is from 90 to 60, so it's 30, which is, basically a third, so it's not substantial, especially when you consider the totality of the circumstances of Shinnecock Hills Road and the Long Island Railroad and the shape of the lot. I would also note that the lot is 95,238 square feet, which is 59% larger than the R60 requirement. The lot coverage on this property, when it's completed, is 3.6%, when 20% is allowed. So it is a modest ask, I would say. There's no environmental impact with the type 2 variance, and to the extent that the tennis court is a luxury item, I'd say the self-created hardship here is really the way that the lot, the pie-shaped lot.
Is your yard in this lot at all?
Well, I used to know this pretty well, but there's a circumference that they do in the corner, the building department explained it one time, but there's really no,
Right.
really no.
Well, that's the reason I asked the question.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes we have lots that have those kinds of limitations.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're flag lots, which, you know, so that becomes an issue, but this is really about the shape of the lot.
Here, the entirety of the lot has a front yard.
Yeah.
Right, there's
Right,
the way
right.
it is.
And the setbacks are all met, right?
Correct,
The-
yeah,
right.
the 30 feet.
Right,
It's only the setback from Shinnecock Hills Road, the
Right.
90 to 60.
right, right.
It's just-
But the other ones are.
But it's a paper road.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
I visited the property yesterday. That section is heavily vegetated, very far away from the neighbors. And that's about it.
It's a perfect spot for it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, you'll have to do some extra devegetation in that area.
Oh,
to put-
definitely.
Yeah, because it's
Drainage.
the vegetation is close enough to the house that's being built.
Right. I'm not even sure, I have a separate permit
I did.
for the house, I put a permit in for the
Mhm.
house first. I didn't wanna put a permit together with the tennis court and house, because if you
That'd be
get a
great.
permit for everything, you gotta build everything
Mhm.
in order to get a CO. So I'll put in a permit after the fact, just for the
Mhm.
tennis court.
Right.
As a builder, I'm not gonna build the tennis court. If they want it, that'll be an extra, if they wanna build it down the road. So it may never even be built. The big thing now is pickleball,
Yeah.
which is a quarter of the size of a tennis
Yeah.
court. Or a sports court, they might wanna have.
Basketball, something like
I'm
that.
just trying to get a little comfort away from the house. The lot is huge. The only reason becomes the front yard is because there's a road here. But we don't even know if that road's gonna be built. Otherwise, the setback would be less, right?
Oh, good.
He says I talk too much.
You're right, Dave.
You're fine.
And it's a
Yeah.
50-foot wide
All right,
road
John.
that would provide a
Okay,
separation.
all right, any other questions, from members of the board?
Nope.
Is there anyone from, who's here in the boardroom who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is the application of 74 Shinnecock Hills Road LLC for property located at 74 Shinnecock Hills Road in Shinnecock Hills? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which again, is a property located at 74 Shinnecock Hills Road in Shinnecock Hills? If you're waiting to be heard, is the
Yes.
time, okay. All right, very good. Unless you're an attorney, I just need to swear you in.
Yes,
Can you hear us? Can you hear me?
yes, we can.
Okay, then unless you're an attorney, I need to swear you in.
Go right ahead.
Okay, so if you can state your name and address for the record, please.
Gary Falk, 75 Shinnecock Hills Road.
Okay, and do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, you can tell us your comments, please.
Well, what was not said in the comments by the builder is that we're across the street. And this is a residential area, and while we're delighted with the property that he's approved, we're not especially excited about having a tennis court in our front yard. So that is our concern, is that this is a quiet residential area, and if tennis is gonna be played at various hours, it's gonna be very disruptive to our peace and quiet. And it's really, it's gonna be very disruptive to our home and to our friends and visitors, and as well as us.
Okay, how far away is the proposed tennis court from your house?
All I have is the schematics here, and we are, the schematics that we were sent by the village, is that we have the road, and then there's a blank where we are, which
Yeah.
is directly across.
So you're on the other side of the, what is it, like, it's a paper road?
We are facing that tennis court.
Yeah.
It's right
Okay.
It's right in our
Okay,
wheel.
so you're you're the neighbor who's impacted by the proposed tennis court?
It's not people to the left or right, it's us, which
Yeah.
is across the street.
Wait, you're across the paved street,
Right, correct.
correct? You're 75?
That's correct.
Okay, so you're across the paved street. So,
So that's not impacted.
Shinnecock Hills Road, it's called a paper road. It's part of the development, but it was never paved. It's actually, if you're looking across the street at 74 Shinnecock Hills Road, it goes up into the woods right next to the property. It's kind of a false front yard. We're only calling it a front yard because there's a paper road with the development. It's not in the front of the house. Maybe, does that change anything for you?
Where is it on here? Where is he on this?
This is,
He's
He's over
directly across
here.
the street.
Alright,
across
wait a second.
Shinnecock Hills
Yeah,
Road.
he-
So Shinnecock Hills Road is
Turn it this way.
paved up to here, right? So it comes
where
in,
it meets Arbutus.
and then it's not paved here.
There.
Where's his house?
So is he,
His house is
is he
gonna be
north?
across
This is
the
just
He's
street.
north, he's
On
north.
which
Woods.
That way.
Yeah,
So
so
he's
it's
over
in
here.
paper road. No,
He's
not the
this
paper
way.
road,
Yeah,
it's
he's over
across
here.
the asphalt.
He's here, and our tennis court will be
Be
here.
there.
So
Okay.
there's
Okay,
no-
so how
there's
far
no-
away? 250 to 300 feet away.
So, okay, so the one that,
Guesstimate.
And
Yes,
this
the-
would be his front yard.
Yeah.
It's the complete other side of the property, so
the-
from where your house is.
Sir,
The one
the-
that I was referring to that was impacted is this one.
So,
Is this-
sir,
this-
the,
This property,
He's
but
over
that's,
here.
but that's not him.
the tennis court is going to be, when you're looking at the house, it's going to be further back and to the right.
It's gonna be near the railroad tracks.
You know,
I'm not putting it in his
here's where
front
we're
yard.
not, you know, we're.
Yeah, I took pictures.
Looking at the map.
He's there. I took pictures.
But, you know, we didn't quite understand because the front of the house is on a hill, and that's gonna have to be dug out, so if this is in the back, it's a different story.
it's in the back by the railroad.
It's
Tracks.
right.
It's 30 feet off the railroad tracks.
Up here.
Well,
It's
again,
gonna
I hear you, I respect it, but when we're looking at the schematic, it says Shinnecock Hills Road.
Yeah, that's,
But that's not the paved road.
Yeah,
yeah, that's the unopened portion
Unopened
that could
portion.
be open between the two new houses, right? Shinnecock Hills Road goes through there, it's not open right now.
Yeah, it's all trees.
so it's, so the proposed tennis court isn't near where the boundary is between your property and the neighbor.
Maybe it would help, the tennis court is behind the house.
One corner of the tennis court is going to be in line with the front facade of the house.
The rest of it behind.
The rest of it is behind, yes.
And what kind of vegetation is,
We'll probably put green giants up there to shield the tennis court.
okay, so you're gonna be
Yes,
putting
yeah.
some vegetation?
Yeah,
from-
people are gonna want privacy when they're playing tennis.
Okay.
Not that, like I said, not that there's anybody to be looking at you.
But we're not proposing that it be sunken?
What's that?
We're not proposing that it be a sunken tennis court?
We haven't, no.
Okay.
Well, it actually, it probably will be sunken on one side, because it's a slight slope. So it probably will be.
Well, that'll be a
slight.
disadvantage.
Well, the reason I ask about it is because, while the neighbor's far away, the one impact that people have with tennis courts is noise, and sinking the tennis
Yeah.
court in addition to screening can sometimes minimize the noise.
Yeah, I mean.
Yes, well, definitely gonna do screening.
Would you
we
consider it as
having
part of the
variance.
variance?
Yes.
A condition of the
On that
variance?
side, yes.
Yes.
Okay,
On the front side.
on the front side.
Because he's here, which is his, the only thing it's really gonna see is from the front yard. If he's
Well-
in his backyard, he's never gonna see the
It would
tennis
make
court.
sense to put it on the front and around.
Yeah.
You Just wrap around on those two
Yes,
sides.
yes. Yeah, we could definitely do that.
Would that be satisfactory to you, to have some vegetative screening?
Absolutely, like I said, unfortunately, the drawing that we have, we're having trouble conceptualizing, we can't see what you're seeing on the table there.
Yes, it's confusing. We all agree.
And, because we are right where Shinnecock Hills paved meets Arbutus paved. And I'm not understanding the paperwork part. I know where the new house is, I know where the new house is next to it, but I'm having trouble.
Well,
understanding.
so when you're standing at your front yard, right, and you're looking out onto Shinnecock Hills Road, to the right, Shinnecock Hills Road it curves, correct?
Paper.
No, not the paper road, the
turns-
actual
turns
paved
around.
road. It turns, correct? To your right?
It turns to Arbutus.
Right. So the paper road, at the curve, the paper road moves off to the, and I'm so bad with direction, to the southwest,
Towards the railroad.
towards the railroad. So where the curve is, that's where the paper road comes off into the woods.
And the relief that's being requested for the tennis court, in terms of setback relief, is from the paper portion of Shinnecock Hills Road, which is a significant distance from where your house is.
So that's the part that's adjacent to the other new house, is that
Right.
Correct.
We're not moving it forward, we're just moving it sideways.
Correct. And now it's very conceptual. It's a technical variance in the event this becomes
Yeah.
paved.
Okay. And the
Yeah.
only other question we have is lights. Is this gonna be lit or
No,
not?
no lights.
Then I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay.
Would you be, would that be okay to be, make that a condition of the permit, that it's not lit?
No problem.
The variance?
I don't think you
I
can
don't
light
think
them.
you can, no, you can't light them. Would you consider sunken as well, or not?
I think because of the topo, it's gonna be partly
All
something.
right, so we can leave that open,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
okay, so the condition would be screening and.
Screening on the
Screening
two
and-
sides, right?
yeah.
On the north and west side?
Yes.
Right.
Oh, you're gonna tax me here, aren't you?
Okay, okay.
Directions.
Okay, all right, thank you for your comments, greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, north and west.
Okay, is there anyone
I
else?
could come there tomorrow and show them.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to be heard in connection with this application? Okay, if not, John, it's yours.
Okay, I move to close the public hearing. Leave this open for written submissions by June 30th and a decision on July 6th.
Second.
Mr. Leonard?
Aye.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Ms. Kern?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Ms. Burgess? Oh, okay, couldn't hear you. Okay. Chair votes aye.
No, but I just left it open just in
Okay,
case.
thank you.
No,
Tha-
no.
Thank you so much.
I will.
Okay.
Oh, you're a bunch of
Okay.
jokers.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
David.
Thank you.
All right, next one I got here is Vincent Smith and Candy Smith, 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-5-5-30.1. This is held over from our May 18th meeting.
Good evening.
Evening.
I wasn't expecting to get this early, so I pulled back. There was a letter or a package that was presented on the 7th, which complied with.
I'm not sure if he was here last time, I don't remember.
But, wait, what are we,
I'm sorry.
which one are we
This is
on?
the application of
14.
Smith, correct?
Vincent Smith.
Yes, so, and did I previously swear you in?
You did, yes.
I did, okay, so you're still sworn
I'm
in? Okay.
walking
His
out.
name?
Yeah, and can you
Is the
repeat
fence in
your
front
name for the
yard?
record?
Okay, Vincent Smith.
Heinz.
Vincent Smith.
And Chairman, I'm
Want me to spell
recusing
that for
myself
you?
from this.
Okay. Okay, so you can give us an update.
Okay, there was a letter or a package was presented to the board on the 7th, and in that letter or package, there was an update.
Yeah, I have a note on mine about, was Daphne on this? Yeah,
Yeah,
Daphne
she
was on.
unfortunately couldn't make it tonight.
Okay, but you were with her the last time?
I was.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
So I'm referring to that package. There were several things in it. There was a big concern at that time about the propane tanks.
Yes.
In that letter, as well as, we took that to heart. They've since been moved.
Oh.
Put them closer to the house. There's a photograph of the tanks in that package that was sent in, as well as this. This is part of the package on the 7th. So that's been done, that's been taken care of, it's been relocated from the property line towards the house.
Okay.
That was the major
That was
concern.
that was the
that we
big,
had, yeah.
I took it to heart. Obviously, it was one of the biggest sticking issues that the board had, so I just wanted to get it done, and so that's been resolved. There was a second item that the board discussed, and it was relative to, I don't know the name of the head of the building department. In any event, Dave Kanji was to revisit the house, the garage, to see if there was a FEMA issue relative to flooding. And he did do that, and there's a response that's in that June 7th package, which states, maybe I could read it. This was from Art Gershauer to Daphne. I've discussed PBI Ganji's field inspection and determination with BI Marjorie Riley, who reviewed the application for ZBA. The building does not need to be elevated. The only flood prevention work PBI Kanji determined is needing of flood openings. This gadget here, which we're gonna go back when we get the permit for that, the approval of the variance, and go back to the permit, we're going to install these in it. It's 3, basically, doors that open up one way to let the water out as opposed to letting the flood water come in. So that was his only issue. The closing last sentence is, the application before the ZBA remains the same. comment would be as to the workshop storage area. So that's the second thing that was taken care of relative to
Right.
FEMA, which was a big thing.
Did you get that package? I'm not sure I got that package, did you?
It was hand-delivered on June 7th.
Candace, did you
I
get?
wasn't here.
Yeah, all right, so,
Maybe in submissions. Is it in your-
oh, but
is it in your
maybe.
submittals?
I don't have it either.
Yeah. Well, maybe you could follow up.
Yeah,
just
we
to
have a
make-
submission.
Where
We
is
have a
that?
submission
Is
on
this-
June
oh, right,
7th. It
okay.
is.
Okay, it just came to us today
Mhm.
at the meeting, so that's why.
Oh, the Surfside piece, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so now I know where you're going.
Okay, actually, I'm taking it off the letter that you're looking at right there.
Yeah.
Those are, yeah,
Yeah.
which we've done.
Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing, the third thing that was issued, you had requested was to get costs associated with the removal of the pool, the above-ground pool. Should that have to be removed, as well as the sunroom, should that have to be removed? Both of those are in the package.
Okay.
Both of those estimates are there.
Yep.
And I think that was the third. Excuse me while I read.
So we have an estimate of $45,500.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
I believe that's
Sounds like
all.
you've done your homework.
Well, I wanted to make it, listen, I've learned my lesson here as far as getting a permit is concerned, and I'm preaching the gospel. I'll just let the board know that. Had I done this 20 years ago, I certainly wouldn't be in this position. So
That guy that wanted 19,000 square feet.
I felt most bad for the gentleman that put 5 years into the effort and
Yeah,
should
I
have had
know.
an
It's
attorney.
very,
but,
it's difficult.
It is, I
Yeah.
respect what you guys have to do, that's really giving bad news, and it's hard to do.
Sometimes it's what you gotta do.
I understand the law is the law.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But
I don't
did-
enjoy having to do that to anybody.
Okay,
Sometimes
anything
I have
else
to do
here?
I think that
Okay.
concludes what you had asked for.
You've done a good job of addressing the concerns of the
Yep,
board.
yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay, okay. All right, is there anyone from the public who would like to be heard in connection with this application, which is for, it's the application of Smith for 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak? Is there anyone who is in the, waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, again, for 74 Pine Neck Avenue in Noyak? If you're waiting to be heard on Zoom, this will be the time to let us know by raising your hand. Okay, if not, Mike, it's yours.
Okay, so I believe we have all the information we asked for, right?
Yep.
So, we will close this public hearing, leaving it open for written submissions until June 30th, with an expected decision, on July 6th.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Mr. Daly?
Aye.
Mr. Macedonio?
Aye.
Ms. Burgess? Mr. Tudhill?
Aye.
Ms. Curran?
Aye.
Chair votes aye, and Mr. Leonard had recused himself, so he abstains. Thank you so much, have a good rest of your night.
Thank you for your time.
Good
Good
job.
luck with
Mr.
everything.
Smith.
Thank you very much.
Yes, very good
Thank you.
job.
Tell Daphne we said hi.
I sure will. I was supposed to call her after the ninth, and so we was gonna jump in, but I'm gonna call her now. and tell her.
Okay, item
Say what she
15
said.
on the agenda is Richard J. Flood and Mary Ann Stephens, 188 Noyak Avenue in Noyak, Suffolk County Tax Map 900-5-4-65.
He did a good job.
Very good job.
Oh, he did?
It's all right. Geez, I haven't seen you so long.
No, because
The Burke sent you, huh?
Nice to see you too, Tim.
You were looking forward to seeing me then?
Bob, did you get one?
Robert, did
I got one, yes.
Okay, okay.
This is,
New submission. Oh, this is for the file, Susan. That's the original.
Can I have a
And
copy?
you
Can I have a copy,
You have a copy.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm sorry, we haven't.
Do you have a
Oh,
copy?
extra. Yep.
I have one. Thank you.
And then one for Helen.
We could give one to Candace.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Timothy S. McCauley of Council of Burke and Sullivan, 41 Meeting House Lane, Southampton, New York. Mr. Flood is here, I believe you swore him in?
Yes.
Okay. The memo I handed out to you is the basic premises for the pyramid relief. for this application, which is a little over 5,000
Mhm.
square feet. There was some banter with Kieran was here last time.
Mhm.
Anyway, this board granted 4,200 square feet on a 7,500 square foot lot and 8,500 on a 4,000 square foot lot. This lot is 6,250. It fits right in the middle. So the 53 cubic feet that we're asking for is reasonable and determined by this board myriad applications within Pine Neck. And I've laid it all out for you. And if you recall, Mr. Chairman, the original application was for a height variance of 1.5 feet.
I recall.
And you said we don't grant height variances.
Right.
Well, I've attached two.
Oh, no,
in
we
the-
rarely grant height variances.
Oh, okay.
I didn't say we don't, I said
Okay.
we rarely.
All right, and I understand your reluctance to do that.
Mhm.
So we've gone to the pyramid at great expense. And what Mr. Flood is going to do for the neighbors is install public water for all of the adjacent properties at his own cost. Okay, because the health department asked us to do that, and he said he would. And the only reason that we have any setback relief, we have a foot for the pool, but on the dwelling, we moved it back so we could get the IA system in the front. And the one where you granted 4,200 square feet at 162 Noyak Avenue, that was a modular, 2 stories, with a basement, and a bigger lot, and still asked for 4,200 square feet. And the reason for that was because it was a rectangular shaped building, and they put it parallel to the street and put their IA system in a side yard. So they had to shift that building over, and this board had no problem with that. And Mr. Flood comes, and seems to be a major problem. And I think we're in the middle of what you've been granting, and I don't think it's unreasonable.
Okay.
And that's my story. Make it quick.
Okay, okay. All right. So we're gonna take a look at what you submitted. We just literally handed it, the information.
Oh, yeah, that-
But I believe there was quite a bit of back and forth, you know, at you know, a couple of prior meetings
Yep.
about seeing what could be done to reduce the pyramid relief. And you're certainly entitled, the applicant is entitled, to leave the application as it stands and see if the applicant has 4 votes. I do not know whether the applicant has 4 votes, but what I can tell you is that we will all review what you've submitted tonight.
Yeah,
And consider
I'm
it.
just saying that I believe it's reasonable number, and I know some of the people on this board weren't part and parcel of what was granted before, so that's why I'm giving the copies and the determinations, and most importantly, the findings that found that granting that would not create an undesirable condition for the neighborhood. And environmentally, we're putting in an IA system and adding public water to the adjacent properties. So.
I'm sure nobody's gonna complain.
Pardon me?
I'm sure nobody's gonna complain then.
Yeah, let's move on.
Okay.
And I know Mr. Patton came the last time, I reviewed the videos and I saw him. I just want you to understand, not him, but the person who owned the property at the time came before this board and asked for relief. And got a 7-yard setback to the property that Mr. Flood owns. So, you know, going back to what you said, almost, and it's in the decisions, almost all of these properties, when they're being developed, need some kind of relief.
Right.
Even an addition on one of them, there was an addition of 370 square feet, and it resulted in a large amount of.
Yeah.
So, you know, the board is used to this, and I have to say, Pine Neck was developed a long, long time ago. In the days when people came here and on Labor Day pulled the shutters down, went back to the city, and then didn't come back. Those days are over, so you're gonna have to deal with these kinds of lots. And I think this is a reasonable amount of,
So can I just understand, from the original application, you have now reduced the height to 31.5 feet?
correct,
Okay,
15,
it-
I think.
Okay,
31.15.
Yeah.
1.5, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
And as a result of that, you've increased the pyramid request to 5,373.29 feet, whereas your original pyramid request was very minimal.
135.
5 feet, all right, cubic feet, okay. Just,
But what happens with the headroom when you reduce it even that amount, and
Yeah.
Mr. Flood can explain that,
Yeah.
I'm not a builder.
yeah, no, I just wanted to get clarification,
Yeah.
because, we had said to you, come down in height, and we understand that there may be an impact on pyramid.
Exactly.
But I think that your point is that, we just got this material, we're gonna
Oh,
need
I
to
know.
review it. And I think, since I'm the lead on it, I would like you to come back after we've had a chance to review it to answer any questions that we might have.
That's fine, but it won't be till,
Yeah,
August.
it's not gonna be for a while, is that,
Okay.
I'd also like to see updated plans.
oh yeah, we don't, do you
Yeah,
have?
you got them at the last meeting.
But with the change of the
No.
height and the pyramid, we didn't get that.
No.
Oh, did we?
We
Yes,
did-
you
We
did.
did
Okay.
at the last meeting. yeah.
Okay,
But you know what, if some of the members don't have them, raise your hand and we'll make sure you get them.
okay.
I am unsure.
You
I
know
don't
what
have
we'll
them
do?
here, and I keep
Okay.
everything together, so
All
I
right,
did
you
not
know
get
what
a.
we gotta- You know what we'll do, it's important that you have them.
Yeah, I would like a copy of the plans.
So we will put a package together and give it to Candace, and I'll send it electronically as well.
Thank you.
Okay,
I
thank you.
appreciate
Okay.
that.
For the record,
Thank
I'm
you.
okay with the new way it is.
I'm good with it too.
Okay,
I can't say, I have to look at it, I'm sorry.
Same
I
here.
just have to review it.
okay. Is there any way that you could review it and make a determination as to whether I have to come back in August, or can we do?
Well, the other thing we could, well, I mean, Susan's the lead, so I'm gonna defer to the lead on the application, but I mean, the other thing
Tell
we
me
could do.
what the options are.
Well, the only other option is you can review it and then decide whether we wanna we can close it now, but then we could decide to, we could decide to reopen it
Well, the
after.
problem is if you close it, then you have to have a unanimous to.
Vote to reopen,
So
yes.
I don't wanna go down that.
I understand.
Very good.
Okay.
I've been
So-
doing this a
A
lot.
long time,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
okay.
So.
Yeah.
Well, but how about, how about, we don't have place on the docket for the next couple of meetings, right?
We do not, that's the problem, is our schedule. The both July meetings are packed.
There are 13 on each one, so
Mhm.
Can we leave it
August.
open and then decide to close it
Got an
if we
opening in
get written
December, I'm
submissions
sure.
and we're fine with it?
Hold on.
I like you
Can
guys
we
a
leave it
lot,
open?
but as you notice, I'm getting older.
No, yeah. Can we leave it open to to December? No, to August, and then decide after we've seen some written submissions submitted
The
within the
plans,
next
yeah.
week or so, whether or not we could close it for decision.
I think what we ought to do is we ought to close it.
Creates a problem.
We ought to leave it open for written submissions, and if in fact we, there are some of us who, but then we have to get a unanimous,
have a
then you have to
unanimous
have a
vote.
unanimous,
I
yeah.
don't wanna take that chance.
Okay,
Leave it
so
open
let's
and then
leave
we
it
can
open.
Come
close
on,
it
we
at a
all
later
get
date.
along, Tim, don't worry about
We
that.
sure do.
No, but I understand your concern. All right, let's,
Make the written submission date
It's
later.
just a written submission and we'll put it in. I mean, can I maybe address your concerns now, or what your?
I don't even know what my concerns are. I mean,
Yeah, we
this
need
is
to
a
s-
fairly, we don't have the
So
plans.
so what you're saying is you're not familiar with the changed plans to the pyramid?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right. So
I'll
I
get
wanna
that
take
to
a
you.
look at, doesn't sound terribly unreasonable,
Yep.
but there may be questions that come up. I mean,
Okay.
you know,
We'll
it's a
definitely do-
possibility that there won't be any issues, but
First of the week, you'll have it electronically, and should I give you all the copies too? Pardon me?
take a look.
Right. Candace is gonna do some magic.
Could you explain, why are we having such a problem adjourning it to August?
You'll lose the whole season building.
Well, there-
Why are we having such a problem adjourning it to August was
Ms.
her question.
Burgess, we've been at this for 4 months or 3 months already, and it is what it is. I know you seem to have a problem, but I would ask you, please, look at the memo that I submitted tonight, look at the determinations that this board has made, and I think you'll see this fits right in the middle, and it's not excessive compared to what this board has granted before. And I know you're a fair person, so I just asked you to
Well,
do
are you
that.
willing to have us close the public hearing and rely on written submissions based on what you feel is, kind of a comfort zone? And we've come up with a decision.
Tim's nervous about that, I can see it.
I don't understand that.
Okay, what they would do is close the hearing now, and we could change things or add things, and somebody else, the neighbor could do the same, and then at the end of that, June 30th or whatever, that's the end, and then whatever they have in front of them, they're gonna make their
a decision.
And what if their decision is, so they're gonna make an up or down decision, what if the decision is down, what are my options?
Go to court. Or file another application for
another
different relief.
application,
I think when they take a good look at this, it's not gonna be an issue.
Okay, so
Well,
then
just
you're
hold-
willing to
hold the
take
thing
the
over
chance of,
for
what?
Another date.
All right.
Well, the problem is.
Squeeze it in July, squeeze it in.
Time is running till August, we'd like to get something a little earlier.
Is there anything earlier? Is there anything we could?
7/6 or 7/20.
You wanna do 7/6?
I have no problem squeezing on 7/6.
Yeah, let's.
Okay, that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna
I
have a long
promise,
night.
I promise that whatever questions the board has, they'll be answered correctly and hopefully in writing beforehand, so I won't take up any of your time.
Okay, so we are gonna keep this?
Okay, hold on,
Keep it
I just have
open.
to ask.
Oh, we have to ask people.
Yes,
in the
is there
audience.
anyone from the public who's waiting to be heard in connection with the application of flood for property located at 188 Noack Avenue in Sag Harbor? Is there anyone who's waiting to be heard on Zoom in connection with this application, which is for 188 Noack Avenue in Sag Harbor? If you were waiting to be heard on Zoom, this would be the time to let us know by raising your hand. No one on Zoom. Okay, Susan, it's yours.
All right, so we're going to leave
Thank
this
you very
open,
much.
and we are gonna adjourn it to 7/6. In the meantime, you're gonna get us some additional information.
get that as
And
soon
we're
as I
gonna
can.
take a good look at what you've submitted.
Okay, no problem.
Okay?
All right.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Let me see, Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Chair votes aye. Have a good rest of your
Thank you very
night.
much.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Good to see you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, so I think I have a few decisions. Okay,
Yeah.
I have a decision in the application of the minor, this is the minor, this is the application of SRZ Ventures LLC. This is for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 951-119.2. This minor application is for property located at 63 Chase Court Bridge, Hampton. Applicant seeks relief for a proposed front covered porch. This board finds that the application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 33011, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a principal front yard setback of 49.8 feet, where 60 feet is required for a proposed front covered porch on a non-conforming lot, as shown on the survey prepared by Vincent Tutonico, last dated December 29, 2022, and the plans prepared by Joseph Bichetti, P.E., dated December 15, 2022. Granted the foregoing relief and subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess. Mr. Tudhill. Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a determination in the matter of the application of Stephen Andrew Fuchs. This is a property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 954-313. This application is a property located at 25 Tansy Lane, Bridgehampton. Applicant requests variances to legalize the location of a detached garage. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code to legalize the location of a detached garage. Town Code 33076D, placement of accessory building structures and uses in all districts, and Town Code 33083C, yards, to allow the garage to be located within the minimum and total required side yard, as shown in the survey prepared by Paul Barilski, surveyor, updated February 24, 2023, and the plans prepared by HB Cornerstone, last revised April 14, 2023. This decision is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises, including the legalization of the existing trellis by the pool house and compliance with the clearing restrictions as approved by the planning board prior to the issuance of any certificate for the detached garage.
Which one is this?
Second.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Fuchs.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. I next have a determination on the application of Juan Carlos Trellis for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-264-329. This application is for property located at 25 Fordham Drive, Hampton Bays. Applicant requests variances to construct a one-story addition on a small, non-conforming lot. This application passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from the following provisions of the Town Code for a proposed one-story addition. 1. Town Code 33011, Residence Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a total required side yard setback of 24.2 feet where 25 feet is required. And 33084D, pyramid height, for a total pyramid encroachment in the amount of 231 cubic feet, 18.91 cubic feet existing on the west side, 211.83 cubic feet proposed on the east side. These variances are granted as shown on the survey prepared by Gary Benz, surveyor, last dated August 3rd, 2022, and the plans and elevations prepared by Todd O'Connell, AIA, last revised March 27, 2023. Granted, the foregoing is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Last one I have is decision on the application of the Lemony Family Irrevocable Trust for property located at Suffolk County Tax Map Number 900-123-247. This application is for property located at 270 Long Neck Boulevard, Flanders. Applicant requested variance for a front covered porch. This application qualifies as a minor variance, and this board finds that it passes the standards set forth in New York State Town Law and the Town Code. Therefore, this board grants relief from Town Code 33011, Residential Districts Table of Dimensional Regulations, for a principal front yard setback of 24 feet, where 30 feet is required for a proposed front covered porch on a proposed one-family dwelling on a non-conforming lot, as shown in the survey prepared by Floyd Carrington of Rangers, Marks, and Carrington, surveyors, last dated March 13, 2023, and the plans and elevations prepared by James Joseph Barlow, P.E., and approved by NYA on September 13, 2021. Granted, the foregoing relief is subject to such other conditions and permits as applicant has already acquired or may otherwise have to acquire for final approval of the subject premises.
Second.
Mr. Leonard.
Aye.
Mr. Tudhill.
Aye.
Mr. Macedonia.
Aye.
Ms. Burgess.
Aye.
Mr. Daly.
Aye.
Ms. Kern.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion to close.
Close. Motion.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
We are closed. Thank you, everybody.